Good evening. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you to the school board meeting this Tuesday, December 12, 2023. The public is encouraged and welcomed to address the school board at the hearing of citizens. Once the hearing of citizens begins, no more cards will be collected. I will call you forward at the appropriate time. Will everyone please stand for the flag salute? Thank you. Before we move on to the first agenda item, I do want to point out that there are no students in this boardroom this evening that have been scheduled for a performance. Those performances have been canceled as best practices under the current circumstances, as well as there is no student representative sitting on the dais for the same reason. And before I go on to introduce the resolution of which I drafted, I want to make it very clear to the community that for me, as the chair of this school board, it's not about the left, it's not about the right, it's about students. Throughout my career, I've been a teacher, principal, and now sit on this dais, and every decision that I make, any proposal I put forward is based on instruction, learning, and what is in the best interest of our students. Safety and security is foremost, which you can see the protocols that were put in place tonight. I've never had this many cameras on me or in this boardroom or filming the process that this board goes through. Keeping in mind that my decisions are solely based on students' instruction and learning, and that we are on an incredible trajectory, something that I have believed in and worked hard for several years, that we get back on the trajectory of focusing in on instruction, learning, and supporting our teachers, our staff. And my commitment to this community is the highest quality schools, and that's not going to change. So at the outset of this meeting, I wish to propose a resolution for board adoption. Karen Rose, have requested that legal counsel prepare a resolution which has been previously distributed to all board members. The resolution recommends that Bridget Ziegler immediately take all steps necessary to voluntarily resign her position as school board member representing District 1 for the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida. And I am going to ask legal counsel, Mr. Duggan, to read the resolution on my behalf. Please, Mr. Duggan.
Sure. So the resolution is entitled the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida, Resolution 2023-02. It's a resolution of the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida, calling for the school board member Bridget Ziegler to voluntarily resign her position as school board member for District 1 on the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida. It has several recitals, which include, whereas Bridget Ziegler was elected by the voters of Sarasota County to serve as a school board member of the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida on August 23, 2022, representing District 1 for a new 4-year term that commenced in November of 2022. And whereas Article 4, Section 7 of the Florida Constitution provides for the only method other than voluntary resignation for the removal of a school board member from office, which consists of the Florida governor first suspending the school board member by executive order for malfeasance, misfeasance, neglect of duty, drunkenness, incompetence, permanent inability to perform official duties, or commission of a felony, followed by Florida's Senate thereafter removing from office the suspended school board member by a majority of its membership. And whereas, as a result, the school board of Sarasota County, Florida, lacks authority to remove Bridget Ziegler as a school board member, but can resort to informally recommending that she voluntarily resign her position as school board member by non-binding resolution. And whereas, due to recent occurrences that involve Bridget Ziegler that have become public as a result of a law enforcement investigation, it is believed that the continued service by Bridget Ziegler as the District 1 school board member on the school board of Sarasota County, Florida, would cause an irreparably harmful distraction to the school board's ability to fulfill its critical constitutional mission of operating, controlling, and supervising the various Sarasota County public schools. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the school board of Sarasota County, Florida, that the school board hereby recommends that Bridget Ziegler immediately take all steps necessary to voluntarily resign her position as school board member representing District 1 for the school board of Sarasota County, Florida. And then, if it was adopted, passed and duly adopted this 12th day of December 2023, the school board of Sarasota County, Florida, which would then be signed by Karen Rose, chairperson.
I'm going to reinforce that this is not legally binding. It is non-binding. It is me as the chair of this board holding myself accountable to our students in this community and instruction and learning. It's also my understanding through legal counsel that as chair, I can make the motion, and I'm going to proceed to make the motion to adopt this resolution as read by legal counsel Patrick Duggan, and ask if there is a second. If there isn't, I fully understand. This is something I've chosen to do individually. If there is, that is up to any individual board member. So I will ask if there is a second and then proceed to comments. Hearing none, I'd like to refer to comments, please. And I see Bridget Ziegler, please.
Well, seeing that the resolution was not moved forward, I will withhold my comments.
I had my button. I had my.
I'm sorry, it didn't show up. Mrs. Marinelli?
So this, you're asking for a second?
I'm asking for a second if one exists. If it doesn't, that is fine as well.
I second.
Please, please, please. This is challenging and difficult, and I ask you to be as respectful as possible. There may not be students here, but our students are looking at how we behave and how we articulate our messages. So I ask you to please be as respectful as possible. And I see that there is a motion and there is a second, and I see Mr. Edwards would like to comment, but I'm going to refer back to Mrs. Ziegler, who had an opportunity to speak first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am disappointed. As people may know, I serve on another public board, and This issue did not come up, and we were able to forge ahead with the business of the board. I have two questions, if I may direct one to Mr. Superintendent Connor. Recently, we did discuss, when I was chair, about potential resolutions that had come forward, and you had done a little bit of due diligence in the past as what has taken place in Sarasota County. I believe it was something of the sort of maybe 6 to 8 resolutions had been brought forward over the course of 20 years. Is that about accurate?
It was 5 years.
5 years, okay. And many of which were of a political nature, and I bring that up is because that was the intent to remove that and not proceed forward. And then let me ask Mr. Duggan, just to reiterate, I know the chair did mention this, but just one more time, this does not have any teeth, is that correct?
This board has no ability to remove one of the other members.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to move to call the question.
Mr. Edwards, please.
Madam Chair, I called the question.
Mr. Edwards has the right to comment prior to. Mr. Edwards, please.
Point of order. So I called the question. If there's a second, that would be the procedure, but that's another motion now on the floor.
Mr. Edwards, please.
Mr. Duggan,
I don't think your mic is on.
I'm asking Mr. Duggan how to proceed. I want to make sure we follow protocol.
So if Ms. Ziegler is calling the question, is there a second to that?
Is there a second to Mrs. Ziegler calling the question? Hearing none. Mr. Edwards?
Thank you. I don't know how you want to proceed with this, but the last whereas paragraph for me, the first sentence was uncomfortable. I've been very clear that I am not interested in all of the drama around Mrs. Ziegler, and that sentence referring to occurrences with Mrs. Ziegler was a little too personal from my perspective, and I was making a recommendation, which I think the other board members got, to sort of broaden that to the details that are from the investigation. So I have a copy here, but all of you received a copy of the proposed change that I put in that was saying from the details that have come to light during the recent law enforcement investigation.
Are you making a motion?
I'm happy to make a motion.
Would that be the proper,
There's a motion.
Mike, please?
There's a motion on the floor. I think the proper motion would be to move to amend the resolution as it was currently drafted and read.
So moved.
Is there a second?
And so I think the procedure would be you would vote on whether or not to, as a group, amend the motion, which would then make it the motion before you.
Right now, we're going to look at amending the motion as moved by Mr. Edwards with the newly adopted language, correct?
That's correct. And then once that amendment, if it was accepted by the board, then you would vote on that. Thereafter, you would vote on that amended motion, which would then become the motion.
And could you please reinforce that amended piece, Mr. Duggan?
Okay. So it was, and I feel free, Mr. Edwards, to correct me if I misstate your motion, but it was a motion to amend the resolution on the floor to amend the first sentence of the fourth whereas paragraph, and I'll read the new sentence that will replace the old one if the board adopts the amendment as proposed by Mr. Edwards, which would be for whereas number 4. Due to all of the details that have come to light during the recent law enforcement investigation, it is believed that the continued service by Bridget Ziegler as the District 1 school board member on the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida, would cause an irreparably harmful distraction to the school board's ability to fulfill its critical constitutional mission of operating, controlling, and supervising the various Sarasota County public schools, with the rest of the resolution remaining as previously stated.
So taking a voice vote for the amended resolution,
At this posture, you are voting to recommend or to adopt the amendment, at which point you then would thereafter vote to adopt the entire resolution as amended. So right now, you're acting on the amendment to the whereas paragraph number 4 only.
reacting to the paragraph as amended and proposed by Mr. Edwards and reiterated by Patrick Duggan, taking a voice vote. Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mrs. Ziegler?
No.
Mr. Enos?
Yes.
Ms. Marinelli?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, and the amended version of
It's
the...
accepted.
Is accepted.
So now you would then, if the board wished, we'd move to adopt the resolution as it has now been amended.
I move to adopt the resolution as it has now been amended. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion and there is a second. And Mr. Edwards, please.
Thank you. I move that we not have the vote until after public comments. I feel that there are, to be fair to Mrs. Ziegler, two sides to this story, and there may be folks in the audience that want to give their version of one side or the other, and I appreciate that there are no sides in doing what's in the best interest of our students, which is what I've been saying all along, but nonetheless, I think the public should be heard before we vote on this resolution.
There is a motion to hold the vote until after public comment. Is there a second on that motion? Hearing no second, I'm going to call for a voice vote on the amended resolution. And/or will this come up? It won't come up. It's going to have to be a voice vote as amended. Yes, voice vote, or? Okay. There's no further comments. If we could please vote.
There it came up. You have to refresh your screen.
It's okay, take your time. Should pop up now. You want to drop down to the bottom? Take your time. It came up. Item number 1, the motion for the board to adopt this resolution as amended passes 4-1. Hearing of citizens, each speaker.
Mrs. Rose.
Yes. Mr. Edwards, I'm sorry. Please.
As per what Mrs. Ziegler said, it's a resolution that has no teeth. My position has been regarding this topic that it is the distraction du jour in a long list of distractions that has kept the board drama-focused instead of student-centric focused. I have worked with legal counsel to draft a letter that I'll share with everybody here that would be sent to the governor. That is the only measure that we have to get distraction from the dais. So if we can take a short recess just to allow all of us to read, and then I'd make a motion that we pass this as a secondary commitment to our community and our students.
Given that it's not on the agenda, I'm going to follow the agenda unless there is a second. If you want to put that forward as a, I'm not comfortable leaving the agenda. Mr. Duggan, please. Weigh in.
This is the first I'm seeing it, so may I review it for just a moment?
Mr. Enos, please.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to just address a couple of different things. I think at the end of the day, when we all look at this and when we take the oath of office to come in here, we all are, without a question, are dedicated to the mission of education. I mean, we're dedicated to the students that are in Sarasota County, the staff, the faculty. I mean, we just received the school grades. When you look at that and how we've already started to achieve and getting back to our rightful place in the state of Florida, as I always said, is we should lead and to never follow. What this is either which way, I won't be supporting any letter to the governor because I believe ultimately that when you look at the totality of the piece, is that with regard to Mrs. Ziegler, being laser focused on kids, all the different commitments, and I know that I've seen her have on the dais in reference to kids, is that, when we start going into spots and resolution, at the end of the day, for what ended up happening, is that we need to focus on closing the equity. We need to close the gap on education. We need to make sure that we continue with the reading. We ultimately, though, is that we have to have to the business of the mission of the district, which is to make kids smarter, which is to make sure that we continue to do what we've made and dedicated ourselves. And it'll be up to Mrs. Ziegler of whether or not she resigns or she doesn't resign, because that is going to be up to her decision to make, as this is just as a board is saying, as this one individual person is that, with this oath of office is that I take very, very seriously being in law enforcement for 32 years. And with this oath of office is, and we all have an expectation. People make mistakes, people fail. I've made mistakes and I've failed on my behalf many, many times. But at the end of the day, that it's going to come up to whether or not that Mrs. Ziegler wants to, if she continues and doesn't resign and stays, that we have an obligation that we all need to be focused on education, and we need to focus on our kids, and we need to focus as we continue to move forward. Because that is truly is what our mission is, besides the politics. The politics have to get outside of the board in which we've all made the decision. So whether it's Democrat, Republican, whatever it is that it should be only about the kids. My decision tonight was only about the kids. It was about the kids specifically, and this one board member has made my feelings known. Because ultimately that we take that oath is the reason why I voted in the way that I did. But this is a very difficult situation to be put in because of making a resolution like this. It doesn't maybe necessarily sets a precedent, but what it does say is that, you know, that we deserve to have the best in everybody and hold ourselves accountable on the board. And I think that is, at the end of the day, is what I am as a board member, because we have all failed during our lives at a variety of different things. For me, I have too. So with that, I won't be supporting any letter to the governor. Ultimately, it will fall upon Mrs. Ziegler and her decision of whether she wants to resign. But that at this point, from this board member, is that we hold that oath, and I hold that oath very, very high, and that we need to, as a board, as this board member, and I don't want to speak for the board as only a board member, is that we need to move forward with what we are doing, and we need to continue to focus on children and the systems that need to be in place for us to be first again in the state.
Thank you, Mr. Enos. I concur. I have no interest in entertaining a letter to the governor. It's my understanding, having researched this piece thoroughly, that as Mr. Enos stated, it is this is non-binding, and it is my colleague's legal decision. She has the decision to stay on this board and or to resign. That belongs solely to my colleague. So unless legal counsel tells me otherwise, I'm going to proceed with the agenda. Mr. Duggan?
Okay, so as you know, I try to be as objective as possible when it comes to these things and explain the legal nuances the best I can. There's essentially three requirements for official action. It is having something agended in advance and with public comment. Now, there are exceptions in the statute and our policy as well for public comment for things that are official acts but that are merely ceremonial in nature. So I would say both this letter and the resolution were merely ceremonial in nature, because the resolution, you have no ability to remove Ms. Ziegler. It's ceremonial in nature only. Likewise, this letter to the governor either has the authority and will take action or will not. I don't know that anything we can do will have any force of action like that resolution. So I think it's permissible to forego on public comment. The part that gives me a little bit of pause is that it wasn't part of an agended meeting. So I'm not sure you should be taking official action on something that wasn't part of the agenda. But certainly that is up to you. And with that said, there's nothing stopping any individuals from sending a letter to the governor on their own.
I am going to proceed with a hearing of citizens. Thank you, Mr. Duggan. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. When the timer flashes yellow, 1 minute remains, and you need to begin to summarize. You must stop speaking when the buzzer rings. Please note that respect for divergent viewpoints and civility will be shown at every board meeting. Whether you agree or disagree with a speaker, you should listen politely and respectfully without making any sounds of approval or disapproval, including clapping, please. I recognize there is a lot of passion, and particularly this evening, and emotion with the decisions that come before this board and the impact they have on our students, families, staff, and this community. As such, I believe it is important that we afford the opportunity for every speaker to be heard. To my fellow board members, any comments during hearing of citizens that you would like to respond to will take place at the conclusion of public comment. My request is that when you respond, you keep it to the issues that have been brought forward and refrain from directing it to any individual of the public. Per state statute 1001.3723, anyone causing a disruption will first be given a warning, and if the conduct does not stop, you will be removed from the chambers. And I would like, before I start calling the names, I just would like to remind you in the most respectful manner I possibly can that everyone in this chamber and everyone on this dais places our students first, and the public comments have a great impact on our community and on our students. So please be respectful. I would like to call Mr. Martin Hyde for public comment, followed by Joyce Peralta with Mary Lynn McKeon on deck, please. Mr. Hyde.
Well, my name is Martin Hyde. I've famously been cancelled twice. Start this off with the Republicans on here. Et tu, Brute? Is this a meeting of the school board, or is this a meeting of hypocrites anonymous? I'm proud of Bridget Ziegler turning up tonight. It showed a hell of a lot of guts. And whatever you think, the truth is she's one person against a whole room. And shame on you, anybody here that comes and talks about a mother of 3 children. I saw people outside. Yeah, it's not funny. I saw people outside wearing T-shirts, "Make America Kind," standing outside with looks in their eyes that would kill. Mrs. Rose talks about distractions, notwithstanding her own little campaign speech at the start here. She's got less than 9 months to go. That's why she's touting this. She knows what she wants. It's got absolutely nothing to do with Bridget Ziegler and everything to do with her re-election. So, with regard to distractions, Mr. Edwards outside, as he always is, rabble-rousing, doesn't want to be involved, laughing it up. We still have over 30% of our second graders not reading at grade level. We still have the same legal counsel who cost this district millions of dollars during COVID. But this meeting is devoted to a motion that has no more authority than I would if I stood out in the street. An utter and complete political charade for a re-election. Only the governor can remove a board member. No board member, no ceremonial chair, and no woke mob can remove Bridget Ziegler from the board. Let's try to be reasonable. I don't dispute your right to come here tonight and to call Bridget out for resignation. I don't dispute your right to come here and talk about hypocrisy. But I will ask you one thing. Spare a thought for a young mother of 3. Spare a thought. Well, I don't think that's funny.
Please address the...
Okay, well, I don't think that's funny. If they think that's funny, that says more about them than it says about me. Spare a thought for a mother of 3. Spare a thought for someone who's committed no criminal offence whatsoever. I'd like to end by saying what I always say to everybody. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, Mr. Hyde. Joyce Peralta, please. Followed by Mary Lynn McKinnon with Ken McKay on deck. Casey McKay on deck, please.
Good evening. Joyce Peralta. Bridget Ziegler must resign now. Like the Wizard of Oz, the curtain has been pulled back on Bridget Ziegler. While claiming she was fighting for family values, it is now evident that Bridget and her husband Christian were fighting culture wars for the couple to gain power and money, and to that end, they were very successful. Their income has soared in the last few years. It's not about our kids. While I care not in the least what consenting adults do privately, I do care about the campaign of hate that Bridget was happy to lead in Sarasota, in Florida, and the rest of the country as she trained school board candidates nationwide to repeat her model of disrupting public schools. She actually said this at one of Moms for Liberty conventions that she held. She happily helped Governor DeSantis create and pass the Don't Say Gay bill and end social and emotional learning and restrict teaching race in an accurate way in the public schools. How many Sarasota parents delighted this week in having to answer the question from their children, what is a 3-way? How many suicides have we had nationally because someone did not feel accepted because they were LGBTQ+, disabled, because of the color of their skin, nationality, or religion? How many acts of violence? Bridget, a gay friend of mine told me last week he feels sorry for you and is concerned for your mental health. He said he knows what it feels like to be attacked by all sides. He hoped you would resign to begin to heal for yourself and your family. Your children deserve privacy that will only be obtained when you and your husband remove yourself from the public positions that hold you, that amplify your hypocrisy. You see, even some of those that you attacked are able to see the humanity, equality, and worth of everyone, even you. Sarasota schools deserve an end to the culture wars you led, and sadly, many board members followed. Firing a great, well-performing Superintendent Asplin, trying to hire Vermillion to make Sarasota schools follow the Hillsdale Christian programs are just some of the ways the board often followed your lead. These distractions wasted time, resources, and tax dollars. The distractions led by Bridget Ziegler must stop now.
Thank you. Mary Lynn McKinnon, followed by Casey McKay, with Rudolph Lusek, I believe it's pronounced, on deck.
Thank you. I'm wide awake. I'm wide awake, wide awake. I'm not sleeping. You too. And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" Then I said, "Here I am. Send me." Isaiah. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Mary Lynn McKinnon. I'm a member of the LGBTQ community in Sarasota. As our school board, your greatest responsibility is to ensure the health and safety of our community's children. The threats to our children's well-being do not include drag shows or library books. According to the American Medical Association, the greatest dangers to children are bullets, drugs, and automobiles. They are suicides and homicides. The risk of suicide falls disproportionately on LGBTQ children, and the risk of homicide falls disproportionately on the children of color. Instead of creating a safe and supportive environment for the most vulnerable children, the Republican leadership in Florida and some of you on the Sarasota School Board set further harms upon these children by attempting to erase Black history, stigmatize and target LGBTQ students and teachers, and curb access to literature featuring diverse characters and viewpoints. To say they are lifting their playbook from 1930s Germany is not hyperbole. You have demonstrated Martin Luther King's admonition that power without love is reckless and abusive. Those who hold public office should be motivated by love and service. As Bell Hooks said, beginning with love is the ethical foundation for politics. We are best positioned to transform society in ways that enhance the collective good. We, the populations of Sarasota, you are attempting to erase the LGBTQ community, people of color, people of various ethnicities, religions, and physical and mental abilities refuse to be marginalized. We can take inspiration from one of the great Black voices of our time, Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air, I'll rise. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise, I rise, I rise, I rise.
Thank you, Mrs. McKeon. Casey McKay, please, followed by Rudolph Lusek with Julie London on deck.
Wow, this is quite a show. My boss made me come here. I'm a pastor, and I sat back in that corner, I don't know, a long, long time ago when something like this went on, and they were trying to promote the LGBTQ thing. And now it seems that we're here and we're upset because something like that happened. I'm still trying to understand that. But my boss, Jesus Christ, wanted me to just come here and tell a little story that comes right out of the book of John, chapter 8. When a woman who was caught in adultery
Please
was brought...
address the dais, please.
Pardon me?
Please address the board. Please address me
I'm
as the
doing
chair
that.
and not the audience.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. The Pharisees and teachers of the law, which would be you, they brought in a woman who had been caught in adultery, and they threw her down onto the ground in front of him and said, "What would you suggest we do with this woman?" And Jesus started writing in the ground. Then he finally just said, "He who is without sin, let them cast the first stone." One by one, the rocks started to drop, and people realized that they are not sinless. I'm glad that when I was a preacher's kid as a kid, I wasn't caught doing some of the things I did. But every one of us, make no mistake, in this room is a hypocrite, and I heard it. I got a $100 bill right here. It says on it, "In God we trust." And I deliberately watched everybody in this room just say, "One nation under God." So I'm just here to just say that you've made the commitment that you would follow God, and He's forgiving. She's committed no illegal act. Morally, yes. But look at it, man. I'm brave that you're here, Bridget, at least that you showed up. She would work hard for the school board again, I'm pretty sure, if she give her a chance. That would second chancers do. But I'm not sticking around for this meeting because I've been to these meetings before, and the hatred and evil that's here is just not my kind of style. So I will say this as I finally close. God watches, listens, and hears everything you say, and you will be judged just the way you judge. And so just remember that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKay. Rudolph Lusick, please, followed by Julie London with, looks like Sam Armstrong, I believe, on deck.
Whatever transpires between consenting adults, no matter if they are straight or gay, and I stress consenting, is nobody's business but their own. I am not here to characterize the sexual proclivities of Mrs. Ziegler. Having sex with another woman in a threesome with her husband is not the issue. But when you claim the moral high ground and then you attack the moral integrity of others, the blatant hypocrisy of Mrs. Ziegler, and how it reflects on the credibility of this board is a significant concern to this community. The board, and particularly Mrs. Ziegler, have claimed to be champions of family values and to be motivated in their actions by a desire to save and protect our children. Under this pretext, the board, but most notably Mrs. Ziegler, has been complicit in allowing, at these board meetings, bigots to attack the gay community and even attack and slander a member of this board. She has supported book banning solely on the grounds of having a character who is gay or a minority. And she has proudly spread messages of hate against the transgender community by wearing clothing printed with, I quote, real women aren't men, end of quote. Mrs. Ziegler represents the worst and most dangerous type of politician, one who will say anything, no matter how hateful, and victimize anyone if they believe it will benefit them politically. Her hypocrisy has shown that she is unfit to serve on this school board. If this board is really interested in protecting our children, they will support Mrs. Ziegler's immediate resignation. Not to do so would send a clear message to our children that you can be a liar, a fraud, a hypocrite, and there are no consequences to your despicable actions. If this is the board's idea of a role model and a standard, then how could we expect anything better from our children? Not removing Mrs. Ziegler from this board will show that the board's claim of saving and protecting our children was just a pretext and a cover for promoting an authoritarian fascist ideology. To those who would dismiss my comments by claiming that I'm a left-wing radical, please be informed that I am a registered Republican. But party affiliations should never obligate one and never.
Thank you. Thank you. Please. Your time is up. Please. Julie London.
I think I was supposed to be next. Okay, maybe not. I guess. Anyway, I am.
Julie London is up next,
Okay,
please.
I thought you called me first.
You
All right.
are on deck,
Okay,
please.
you go and then I'll go.
Mrs. London, please.
Hi, I'm Julie London, and I head up the Dare Bubby Substack blog. I also already wrote to Governor DeSantis, and I'm sure a lot of us are as well. At a school board meeting I attended, Tim Eno stated, "Leave the past in the past." In case you haven't noticed, we don't. If it hurts our community, our people, our surroundings, and especially our kids, we're not going to stop or forget until the problem is rectified. As I yelled in Tom Edwards' ear before another contentious school board meeting, this is our Sarasota. Scandals come and go. I won't name names, but I met up with a kid who is now a lawyer who was ejected from a TV show for using the N-word. That's all I could think about. A woman who is married to a man who did a Ponzi scheme often posts in the Nextdoor app. Even with a name change, that's her. Bridget Ziegler called Sarasota's voices a distraction. She never had that Nancy Dietrich motivation that the citizens are her boss. It's easy to get it when you're loved, like Tom. It's a lot harder for Robin Marinelli, who doesn't get us all the time, but she is up there listening, and thank you for that. And you're learning like we all should. She's not laughing at this hypocrisy and time wasted at the hands of Bridget, and neither should we. I know Bridget is experiencing teeth-chattering fear, even though this is at her own hand. But also at her hand are the same trauma and sleepless nights of Sarasota's LGBTQ and minority community. Kids can't process the stigmatization like we as adults barely can ourselves. She's getting a taste of her own medicine. In her election speech, Ziegler said, "We as public servants on that board are there to serve the public. It's never okay to disregard any of our citizens, whatever their issues are, even if it's something you as an elected official don't particularly agree with." There is not a person in this room who can believe that she has lived up to those words. She is Sarasota's George Santos. She turned our town into a laughingstock. If Bridget really did listen and did care, she would resign on her own volition. Her credibility was low to start with, now there's none. A resignation reflects the community's need to move forward in the best interest of the students. After all, this is our Sarasota, and we don't forget. And we also can all write to the governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie London. Sandra Armstrong, followed by Paulina Testerman.
So sorry, I'm Sandy Armstrong, not Sam, which is what you called me first. And it's probably good to bring something up like that because, Mrs. Ziegler, you helped form the Don't Say Gay sort of things that are happening to all of our children and their families. And we also apparently aren't allowed, unless our parents fill out some long form, to call our children what we want to call our own children. And I'm sure you'd like to have your children called what you want them to be called at school. There are a lot of families and staff and children who have been hurt by the Don't Say Gay kinds of things that you all are trying to help deal with now. And Mrs. Ziegler, you did a lot of that, you know, and these people are hurt, they're frightened. Some of them have gotten sick. Some of them have left the community. And I find that oftentimes when gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people have people who are coming down on them, wearing the kind of shirt that's already been described that you wore, usually those people that are doing that sort of thing are hiding something else. And we don't want our children to hide from who they are. We don't want our board to lead by that example. We want you all to lead by being true and fully true. And I think that I'm concerned, I guess I should say, that the board has voted to ask Mrs. Ziegler to resign, and you have, as your right, said, no, I'm not going to do that. And I'm sure you have your reasons for that, but I'm very concerned that the board who just voted to ask her to resign now won't send a letter to the governor, who does have the possibility to do that. And so it makes me worried about the rest of you, and when I have to worry about the rest of you about this, and I'm very concerned about our black, our brown, our gay, our lesbian, our bisexual children and their families, and how safe they are with you all in charge. And, you know, I believe differently than the man that was there earlier. I believe in God, and I believe in Jesus, and I believe love is love. And who you want to love is up to you. But who I want to love and who our families want to love and our children want to love is up to them. And we need you to start honoring who people are and to follow through with what you say. And if you're saying, hey, you know, this vote was to have Mrs. Ziegler resign, and now you won't even send a letter to the governor, that's pretty despicable to me, and I'm very sorry about it. I know there's a lot of grace in the world, and I hope we all have it during this holiday season, and we figure out how to live
Thank you.
together better.
Paulina Testerman, please, followed by Robin Williams with Elizabeth Bornstein on deck.
Good evening. My name is Paulina Testerman, and in the famous words of William Shakespeare, I am here for my pound of flesh. Before I start my speech, Mrs. Ziegler, please do not, Mrs. Rose, please do not mute my mic as you did in the past school board meetings. Mrs. Ziegler, Mrs. Ziegler, Mrs. Ziegler, well, if it isn't the consequences of your own actions, tisk, tisk, tisk. It's always the ones with the dirty hands that are pointing the fingers, isn't it? So I'm confident that most of the speakers tonight will adequately rub your nose in your own hypocrisy. I won't be redundant. Instead, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. You see, Mrs. Ziegler, I'm a natural-born empath. I habitually, to a fault, consider everyone's feelings, and I always put myself in their shoes. So when the news broke of your scandal and I finished celebrating the inevitable end of the Ziegler reign, I then sat down, collected my thoughts, and I began to quietly mourn for you. Unlike you, I refuse to dehumanize even my enemies. I recognize how sad it must be for you to lose your Leadership Institute position, your Moms for Liberty support, your school board backing, and most importantly, to lose your brand and identity, not to mention your personal losses. I ached for you. I remember crying on the phone telling a friend that it must be terribly lonely for you. I mourned for you, Mrs. Ziegler. I really did. Because in some ways, we aren't that different. I too am a woman, a wife, and a mother. But then I remembered all of the hateful, homophobic, intolerant, and vile things that you have said about our children, our neighbors, our teachers, and our community. And I realized that you do not deserve my tears in spite of the fact I can't stop them now. Because I know that you would do this all over again at the expense of our children and our community. So today, Mrs. Ziegler, I celebrate with reckless abandon the demise of politicians like you who use our children as a stepping stone in their quest for power and political relevance. I celebrate the collapse of the Ziegler reign, and I do so in the name of the children that you have victimized for the past many years. Mrs. Ziegler, every time you want to wallow in self-pity and feign victimhood, just remember that you can't complain that it's raining when you're the one who created the storm. To our community and those listening at home, nobody is coming to save your children's education. You have to get up and you have to fight back. If I told you that your children were being robbed at the bus stop every single day, I have little doubt that you would all show up and stop it. This is no different. Pay attention. Our kids are being robbed of education, resources, and opportunities. If nothing else, we beg you to vote. This August 20th, you get to fill 2 of these board member positions. We need you to vote. I will be personally voting for Liz Barker and Tom Edwards. Take out your planner right now. Write down August 20th. Help save public education.
Thank you. Robin Williams, followed by Elizabeth Bornstein, with Dr. Sublis on deck, please.
My name is Robin Taub Williams. I'm here today to present 1,932 petition signatures to the Sarasota School Board. Petition reads as follows. Bridget Ziegler must immediately resign from the Sarasota School Board. In light of recent revelations about Sarasota School Board member Bridget Ziegler and her husband's alleged sexual escapades and an ongoing criminal investigation of sexual assault by her husband, in the best interests of our school district, Ms. Ziegler needs to resign immediately from her position as a member of the Sarasota School Board. It's a major distraction from the serious work of the school board and the Sarasota School District in ensuring the quality education of every student every day. Ms. Ziegler was a founder of Moms for Liberty and promoted chilling legislation against the LGBTQ+ community and false narratives about so-called grooming of children in public schools. Her hypocrisy is stunning. This drama is too much of a distraction in the current operation of our school district, and in the best interest of our students, parents, teachers, staff, administrators, and fellow board members, she needs to resign post haste. I was hoping Ms. Ziegler would have offered an apology to the community and resigned before today's meeting, but that has not happened. In hindsight, this shouldn't be surprising after Christian Ziegler's comments last June at the Philadelphia Moms for Liberty convention, in which he stated, "Never apologize, ever." Other people have different views on this. I think apologizing makes you weak. This was in response to the Hamilton, Indiana chapter of Moms for Liberty quoting Hitler on the front page of their just-launched newspaper. No matter how egregious and cruel your actions, never admit you're wrong, seems to be Mr. Ziegler's credo. Ms. Ziegler, you seem to be sticking to the same unprincipled principle, and you seem unwilling to apologize or relinquish your school board position on your own. In my faith tradition, the person who's harmed others needs to ask forgiveness of their victims, apologize, and they must cease engaging in those acts. True contrition would mean working at becoming a better person and working to repair the world, tikkun olam. The LGBTQ+ community, the Black community, teachers and students across the country have been the victims of bigoted and hateful policies championed by Ms. Ziegler and her Moms for Liberty. Chilling laws have been implemented in Florida and in other states around the nation. Children and families have been endangered and harmed. Some have died. For them, giving forgiveness is not possible. Ms. Ziegler, despite what your husband says, it takes courage to apologize and ask forgiveness from your victims and from your community who were deliberately misled for your own political power and financial gain. Ms. Ziegler, apologize and resign now. The community needs to heal. And
Elizabeth Bornstein, please, followed by Dr. Sublis with Timothy, looks like Wagner, on deck.
Greetings, Board Superintendent, Board Attorney. I'm Elizabeth Bornstein. I'm here once again as a parent of a student in the district and as a parent representing other parents who can't be here who have children in the school district. Mrs. Ziegler said when she ran for office that I know parents are the school district's core customer. They put their trust in us to educate their children, and they have a right to have a seat at the table, provide input, and yes, if they choose, criticize their elected officials when they disagree or upset. I'm upset. I'm furious. I am in disbelief. And you said if an elected official doesn't like what they hear, they have three choices. Let the public speak and ignore it. Let the public speak, absorb it, and reflect on it. My personal preference is what you said. Or do not run for political office. I would add, or resign gracefully. Mrs. Rose, you continue to speak about accountability. Let's hold our board members accountable. Let's stop this condescending, gaslighting, political agenda that I feel guilty coming here speaking on behalf of my child, of the students, every child in this district. Remember, this is supposed to be a supportive environment. You spoke today about direct threat management and concerning behaviors. Hypocrisy and lack of accountability are concerning behaviors, especially at the board level. Sarasota County Board, may you please, all of you, after the Asplin debacle, the Vermillion debacle, the redistricting debacle, and now the Ziegler sexcapade debacle, which my child now knows too much about, can you restore our trust and faith in your leadership and fiduciary responsibilities? May you please do your job to strengthen and reinforce the teachers, the staff. They're the ones, and administrators, doing the most difficult work. And most of all, may you do your jobs to support the learning, growth, and development of our children, your students, so they can thrive. They are our future. And Mrs. Ziegler, I pray for your 3 children. My heart too breaks for them, for the parents that they supposedly have as role models. A wise rabbi said, 3 things does the world stand on justice, on truth, and peace. Please bring peace to our community and let us focus on academic achievement and all of the students and get the politics and the drama and the sexcapades out of the dais once and for all. Enough is enough.
Thank you, Mrs. Bornstein. Dr. Sublis, please. Please correct my pronunciation if I'm wrong. Followed by Timothy Wagner with Leela Newcomb on deck.
Hello, thank you for having us today. I'm Dr. Theone Sublis. I'm a 40-year resident of Sarasota County. I'm a Riverview High School graduate. I'm a former teacher in the district, and my daughter is currently in the district. I also have a 23-year plus, currently, career in teacher preparation and teacher training. My colleagues today and my peers today will be sure to share my thoughts regarding the first agenda resolution. I'm sure my thoughts will be heard through them, especially Paulina Testerman, thank you. But I'd like to spend my 3 minutes today on a bit of a different message, one of celebration. Amidst the chaos, teachers prevailed. Amidst the chaos, the students prevailed. For the 20th year in a row, Sarasota schools earned top grades in the state, the A. 5th ranked school district in the state. This must be celebrated. This is what we need to remember above all, regardless of the mask mandates, regardless of the book bans, regardless of the censored curriculum and the revisionist history, despite the removal of social emotional learning and character education and Superintendent Asplin and the Vermillion debacle, the teachers prevailed. We did our job. Despite the demonizing of us, the teaching profession, the name-calling, untrustworthy, uninformed, groomers. What do we groom? The teachers. We groom standards, objectives, assessments, and learning gains. That's what we groom every day in the classroom. When we have questions, we don't turn to social media. We turn to our professional organizations, National Council of Teachers of English, National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, National Council of Teachers of Social Studies, etc. That's where we find our solutions. Within the profession, I implore you, board, regardless of who sits in that seat, I implore you to change the narrative in this district. Celebrate our teachers. Celebrate their achievements and what they are doing every single day, despite the list that I've already shared
Dr.
with you.
Sublis.
Thank you.
Timothy Wagner, please, followed by Leila Newcomb with Jason Newcomb on deck.
Good evening. My name is Timothy Wagner, and I'm here to support Bridget. I oppose the calls for her to resign. She has done what she has set out to do, and one of the few on this board that has actually stayed true to what she campaigned for. She has done nothing illegal. She has these allegations, and what an adult does in her private life is hers, not to be spread from some of the people that have talked earlier. It's not for you to judge. Remember casting stones? The people calling for her to resign spout off on moral grounds. I will not. Let the investigations continue, and if any legal wrongdoing, then we can have a conversation. Bridget, stand tall. Don't bend. Don't waver, because they're going to come after you like a storm, as you've seen. But we know. Stay strong.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Leila Newcomb, please. Followed by Jason Newcomb with Marjorie Peter on deck.
Hi, everyone. Leila Newcomb, grandmother of 3 in Sarasota Public Schools and proud mother of the speaker that's about to follow me. I wanted first to congratulate Ms. Rose and Mr. Enos on the vice chair and vice chair, and huge thanks to Mr. Tom Edwards for making the choice not to be divisive on this restructure in the hopes of leaving divisiveness behind. You tried. I had planned on speaking about a topic actually related to the education of our children. However, this incredible distraction has come in the way of that. No one would have heard what I had to say anyway, so it'll be postponed for another time. Trickling down to our youth at this moment, aside from the incredible damage that has been done to our marginalized children, is the blaring hypocrisy coming from people that are supposed to be our leaders. Kids are not stupid. They eventually see and hear everything in one way or another, either directly or in some form. What on earth are they supposed to think? With role models like this, I would think it would be very frightening, or at least confusing, to be a child growing up today. Topping it off, children's innocence is being stolen. Kids are hearing things and asking their parents, what's a three-way? And what is rape? Young children, too much. This is truly breaking my heart. Anyway, I think going forward, regardless of the status of the resignation, that we need to think about how on earth to explain this to our children and how to repair the damage. I don't appreciate this for my grandchildren, and they deserve better. And now, yet another month has been wasted on distractions. Not judgment, distractions. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason Newcomb, please, followed by Marjorie Peter.
Thank you for having me. I'm Jason Newcomb. I'm the father of 3 children in the Sarasota public school system, and I am not here as the morality police tonight. I am a professional philosopher, and it has been a well-known fact that for thousands of years, we professional philosophers are all a bunch of degenerates, scoundrels, and libertines. Sorry for addressing the crowd. But there is a universal code of wise conduct, and that is to be consistent within yourself. Say what you do and do what you say. Hypocrisy hurts your soul. You exist in constant fear and pain. You cannot honestly look at yourself, and you cannot honestly look at other people when you're a hypocrite. Jesus mentions the dangers of hypocrisy over a dozen times in the Bible, but my favorite lesson is this. How can you say to your neighbor, "Let me take the speck out of your eye," while a log is in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your neighbor's eye. We all contend with hypocrisy in ourselves. It is very easy to say one thing and do another, but as parents, educators, and community leaders, it is very important to avoid hypocrisy when we are responsible for children. Children are very smart. When they encounter hypocrisy, it hurts them very quickly and very deeply. They become cynical, untrusting, or even worse, they start demonstrating hypocritical behavior in themselves. And when a community leader or a politician behaves in a way that is hypocritical, the problem is greatly magnified. A leader's actions influence the whole community, and a hypocritical and dishonest leader hurts all of our children. Personally, I don't care what people do in their own bedrooms, in their private lives. I don't think it's my business who people love, or how they think of themselves. I believe everyone deserves freedom to do what they want and the liberty to express themselves however they wish, as long as they are not hurting other people. I believe that this is the founding principles of our country. However, if people want to claim the word liberty, but take away books, if they want to claim the word freedom, but take away the right to speak or learn about things they don't like, or they want to tell people how they're allowed to love, but behave in ways that are condemned by their own Bible, then I would say it might be time for those people to pull the logs out of their own eyes. Thank you.
Thank you, Marjorie Peter, followed by, I believe it's Martha Karlovitz, with Sheila Van Ness on deck.
Hello, Superintendent, Madam Chair, board members. My name is Marjorie Peter, a resident since '87, parents of 3 students who've long graduated from the district. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Sorry that you must once again sit through hours of the public coming to testify because we're concerned about the direction you are taking public education in Sarasota County. We feel the process is being hijacked, and we want the foolishness to stop. Please don't think that we, the citizens in the room, enjoy this exercise. But I place the responsibility on your shoulders, not mine. The shoulders of the men and women on the board, because as we teach our students at every grade level, choices have consequences. Many of you have aligned yourself with a strategy of distraction. You choose who to vote with on important issues for the district, the most egregious, of course, being firing a superintendent before you even worked with him, of delving into concerns about critical race theory, social and emotional learning, pornographic books in our school libraries, the effect of vouchers on our students. How much research did each of you truly do, or were some of you following talking points provided? Choices have consequences, and this extended circus-like meeting, you are now suffering the self-inflicted consequences. Please do the job of running the school district. Turn your back on aligning yourself and your reputation with bad decisions and bad decision makers. Make good choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Peter. Martha Karlovitz, followed by Sheila Van Ness with Sally Sells on deck.
Good evening. I'm Martha Karlovitz. I'm president of the Suncoast NEA Retired. We are professional educators from other states that now live and vote in Sarasota County. We organize in order to better be informed about issues affecting public education at the local and state level. I'm not as regular at attending some of these school board meetings as some of our members, but I was here for the meetings which resulted in the firing of Superintendent Asplin. These same meetings included hateful attack on one board member, which Mrs. Ziegler, as board president and presiding officer, did little to alleviate. I wonder now if Mrs. Ziegler will have the same reaction to those of us here today to condemn her hypocrisy and call for her resignation. Is this the same person who started the so-called Moms for Liberty, an organization that wants to dictate curriculum? Is this the same person who wants to deny the professionalism of our district's educators by controlling and mandating what they teach and what books can be available in their classrooms? I'm here today to add to the call for Mrs. Ziegler to make an open apology for her hypocrisy to Sarasota's professional staff, students, and the citizens of Sarasota County who support one of the finest school districts in the state. This apology, followed by her immediate resignation, will allow the Sarasota Board of Education to get back to the job that they were elected to do, to provide support, assistance, and leadership to Sarasota County Public Schools and its students. Thank you.
Thank you. Sheila Van Ness, followed by Sally Sells with Shannon Clement on deck, please.
Thanks for having this open forum. My name is Dr. Sheila Van Ness, and I'm a resident and former teacher and college professor. And I have two observations. Number one, this is a very weak board. Overall, you have started out taking a governor who was trying to get himself elected president, and you've taken in whole cloth a really stupid political plan and tried to bring it to this community. We're not buying it, and most of the people do not buy it. You need to get the politics out and focus on the mission of improving the schools. And I have to disagree that we're an A-rated district. We have lots of kids that can't read. What I think we need to do is have a real mission to have, we have so many former teachers and professionals and business people. Let's have 500 more people volunteering into the schools and coming in to help the teachers and administrators with our children's learning to read. We could do that this year. We could easily have 500 people. Where's the energy from this board to fight for something like that? And by the way, it costs a lot of money for somebody to volunteer to help in the schools. $38, I think, just for your background check. Surely there's some group that would pay that. We should have groups of people jumping in to help with the reading. Now that would make us an A school for real. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Van Ness. Sally Sells, please, followed by Shannon Clement with Lee Rubin on deck, please.
Good evening. My name is Sally Sells, and I'm the mother of fifth grader in the Sarasota County School Board. I'm also one of the world's public speakers, so bear with me. The reason I'm here today is to implore for you, Ms. Ziegler, to do the right thing and step down from the school board in light of recent revelations into your personal life. I want to be clear that I am not referring to the actions of your husband in the criminal investigation. I do not believe that our spouses should be held accountable for the actions of what we do. I am, however, referring to the blatant hypocrisy that you have built your political career on, espousing the values of traditional marriage, one man, one woman. You have been ardently opposed to LGBTQ plus rights, when it turns out you're actually the B in that LGBTQ plus.
Excuse me? I'm sorry. The audience, please.
I have heard you and people who align with you worry about how we explain to our children that Billy has two moms, or Ava has two dads, or that their friend's sibling now goes by Sarah instead of Simon. Well, I can assure you, Ms. Ziegler, that trying to explain the ins and outs of the Zieglers of Sarasota has been far more difficult than any conversation I've had about the above things that I just listed that have actually turned out to be relatively easy conversations that I've had with my 10-year-old daughter. You and your husband have been one of the main reasons this community is so divided. Just as you did at the Leadership Institute, step down, Ms. Ziegler, do the right thing and let our community start to heal. To the remaining members, I wish you would reconsider in regards to writing a letter to the governor. As I look forward to us all moving forward together, allow our school board to do what it is supposed to do, to provide an excellent education for our future leaders without all of these ridiculous distractions. We should celebrate our diversity and make our community welcoming to all those that choose to live, work, play, good Lord, sorry, and send our children to school. Let's move forward. Please step down. Thank you.
Thank you. Shannon Clement, followed by Lee Rubin, with Jennifer Bowles on deck, please.
Good evening, all. Shannon Clement, mother of a child currently enrolled in our Sarasota school systems. Hypocrisy, the practice of claiming to have moral standards or beliefs to which one's own behavior does not conform. Each and every one of us in this room, as well as anyone watching at home or on the replay, of which there were currently over 2,000 people online watching when I last checked, has been guilty of it at some point in time in our lives. For most of us, the consequences of our hypocrisies vary, though it is generally more of a controlled nucleus on a personal level. These circumstances are unfortunate for far too many. There is no best-case scenario here for anyone. What has occurred, however, is a consensus that somehow managed to unite stakeholders who have been at opposition to one another for far too long now. Irony that it took something like this to put the best interest of each and every student in the forefront. As current events have transpired, I've vacillated on whether Mrs. Ziegler should indeed vacate her seat on this board or not. Though she herself is not accused of anything illegal, her admitted hypocrisy has significant negative, often irreparable implications on thousands of families within our state, not just locally. The devil we know is often better than the devil we don't, after all. But when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Mrs. Ziegler's fortitude to be able to attend the workshop today as well as to appear here tonight, knowing the onslaught that was likely to confront her, is commendable. Very few would have been able to do so. My apprehension, however, is that it is far more hubris and self-preservation than actual support of our teachers and students or the responsibility for which she was elected. I've spent numerous meetings standing at this very podium, encouraging everyone to model the behavior we wish to see in our kids. What consenting adults do is of little import. A phrase of mine that I've grown up with is, "And harm none, do what ye will." However, failure to recognize or take responsibility for the ripple effect of this has, however, particularly to those who are or have family who are LGBTQ+, who have been adversely affected by policies and stances Mrs. Ziegler has not only supported but spearheaded, simply compounds collective trauma. What I do know is that if Mrs. Ziegler remains on this board, her hands will be proverbially tied, and you know it, one way or another. The drama will inevitably die down at some point, but what harm and repercussions come from it are yet to be seen, regardless of how this develops. None of it, however, will assist in getting the actual work that this district needs to do done. I can only hope that all involved model what is best for the district and not just their self-interests. Our children and youth deserve far better.
Thank you, Ms. Clement. And Lee Rubin, please, followed by Jennifer Bowles with Sebastian Martinez on deck.
Thank you. My name is Lee Rubin. It's ironic that the student representative chair is vacant tonight because of the issue relating to the personal conduct and hypocrisy of the board's most vocal and radical member. Mrs. Ziegler is responsible for the education of our children, but her own behavior requires that we prevent a Sarasota student from participating tonight. Mr. Enos earlier said that the primary mission of the board is to make kids smarter. Does it make kids smarter by banning books from our school library? Does it make kids smarter by denying the rightful place of all our citizens, regardless of one's sexuality? Does it make kids smarter by rewriting or whitewashing some of our country's more disgraceful moments in history, especially with regards to race? These are the positions that Mrs. Ziegler supports at the expense of our students. I have the privilege of serving as a substitute teacher in our school system. The students that I see, especially in kindergarten, are innocent and kind and vulnerable, and their instincts are pure. It's the misguided morality police that destroys them. Mrs. Ziegler, it's wonderful that you're a mother of 3 children. I didn't realize that that was a leading qualification for being on the school board. What else are you hiding?
Jennifer Bowles, followed by Sebastian Martinez with Carol Lerner on deck, please.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Jennifer Bowles. I, too, am a parent of 3 children in Sarasota County Schools. This will be my first school board speech ever. Tonight, I want to share what it's like to be the parent of an LGBTQ+ child that lives in the state of Florida. In spite of our family's unconditional love and support, our child knows that their kind is not welcome in Sarasota or in Florida. And Ms. Ziegler, I hold you personally accountable for that. Ms. Ziegler, I will give you the benefit of the doubt and assume that I love my child as much as you love your children. So it confounds me that you choose to hurt our innocent children by creating laws that ostracize, shame, vilify, and isolate them. I too own a Bible, Ms. Ziegler. In Matthew 7:1, it states, "Do not judge, or to you will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." So here we are, holding you accountable to your own judgment. See, we can weaponize the Bible too. Ms. Ziegler, your sanctimonious piety leaves many of us disgusted. But the true icing on the cake was when you admitted that you yourself had a sexual relationship with the woman.
Excuse me,
Excuse
please. I don't think discussing anyone's personal, that's crossing the line. You have your time. Please proceed.
Most of our community could not care less what you do in the privacy of your own home. But your hypocrisy takes center stage. This is America, Ms. Ziegler. This is not North Korea or Russia. Under your reign, our school now reflects those countries' values. And I worry how long it will be before our LGBTQIA+ citizens are executed at the town square the way they are in Iran and Saudi Arabia. Your callousness endangers my child's life, and that is why you don't deserve to be on the school board. Your antics are a distraction from the work that needs to be done, and our community needs to heal. Thank you.
Sebastian Martinez, followed by, sorry, Mrs. Lerner, Sebastian is first, and you're next. Thank you for your patience. Sebastian Martinez, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Mr. Superintendent. My name is Sebastian Martinez, and I'm a graduate of our district schools, and I really didn't know how I wanted to go about this. Today, I wanted to talk about supporting students, but I wanted to be open for a second and give a little backstory of myself. I grew up in a religious household and with a church that told me constantly that the worst thing I could be was gay. I was told that I'd be damned to hell and suffer the same fate as a murderer or a rapist. I grew up with the rhetoric that it was wrong, immoral, and disgusting to be gay. And so when I got to high school and I realized something was off, that I was bi, surprise mom and dad, I'll tell them when I get home, or they're probably watching. I felt disgusted with myself and everything I was told growing up at 5 or 6 years old. All of that came back. I never said anything, but there were a handful of teachers, and all my teachers really, that saved me. And I really want to thank every teacher and staff at Booker. Small little details like a sticker that said, "This is a safe space," is probably one of the only reasons why I'm still here and why I'm still breathing. Because I knew I could be myself with them and that it was safe. And here's why I share that. Once I graduated and went to college at Penn State, I was in my dream school studying political science and international relations. I saw my Sarasota, Florida, slowly turn into an educational battleground. And eventually the Parental Rights and Education Bill came about, or the Don't Say Gay Bill. All of a sudden, I watched as my peers had to hear the same rhetoric now from elected officials in Congress, across our state, at our school board, and in our schools. So I moved back because I couldn't see that and not get involved. I heard about how some teachers went from having a picture of them and their significant other and no longer referred to them as a significant other, but just a friend. The same rhetoric that Bridget and the Florida GOP chair espoused, that LGBT students and families are inappropriate, that they don't belong, that they should leave, that they're not developmentally appropriate, that they're pedophiles or groomers, the list goes on and on. That rhetoric is why kids get Baker Acted. That rhetoric is why I have friends and classmates that now are getting tattoos to cover their gash scars. That rhetoric is why I have friends or know families who in some cases only child is 6 feet underground or sitting in an urn. Despite what Ms. Ziegler has said in the past, I cannot help but empathize with her and be concerned for her well-being and her family. I want to be told that what I believe is entirely wrong, and I'll still wait for that. This board has been embroiled in controversy time and time again, and we need to refocus on students, teachers, and parents, to seek out our organizational leaks on purpose and to seal them. We need to fix our real issues. But we cannot do that, like Ms. Rose said, with a distraction that is Ms. Ziegler, which is why I believe she should resign for our students, teachers, parents, and community members. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Carol Lerner, please, followed by Barbara Vaughn.
Good evening, Board. Carol Lerner, Director of Support Our Schools. Like the hundreds of Sarasota residents who came out here today, I am here to tell Bridget Ziegler to do the right thing, apologize to our culture war-weary community, and then resign so we can begin to heal and focus on ways to strengthen both our community and especially our very precious local schools. She must resign so we can make these school board meetings productive and allow the community to provide input into ways to improve achievement and meet the individual needs of all students. A little over 8 years ago, I moved to Sarasota from New Jersey after a long career in education. Like so many, I came here to Sarasota to enjoy the beaches and the wonderful cultural amenities that we are so lucky to have. And for the first 6 months or so, that was my life. Then I met a woman who was sitting in this chamber tonight, in fact, tonight was sitting right next to me, and who can probably be placed in Guinness for the number of school board meetings and workshops she has attended. This woman, Rana Bazzini, nearly 10 years ago at the age of 81, publicly walked from Sarasota to Tallahassee by herself because she was so disturbed by how money and politics corrupted life for all. She is who inspired me to get involved in fighting how corruption, greed, and power has been set loose in this state to destroy public education and many other aspects of public life. I raise this because this is what we are up against tonight as we ponder how we can get Bridget Ziegler to resign. Bridget Ziegler has spent 9 years on this board, just 6 months longer than the time I have lived in this community, corrupting our community, corrupting our state, and through her position in her former job at the Leadership Institute, corrupting our nation. What is her and her husband's motivation for their corrupt, and I may add, hypocritical behavior? Pure and simple, greed and power, an entitled sense that they can break the rules that they preach to others. Well, 2 weeks ago, the Zieglers were viewed as Florida's ultimate power couple. Today, they are viewed as Florida's ultimate hypocritical grifter couple. You are hearing all the reasons tonight why she must resign. I won't repeat them. Do the Zieglers feel they can wait this out? Will they go by what Christian Ziegler told Moms for Liberty in Philadelphia last summer? Never apologize, never back down. It only makes you look weak. But I know one thing, the community is united in ending the Zieglers' corrupt rule here. a rule that has robbed our community of the peace and tranquility it deserves, a rule that has hurt so many children and their families, particularly those of the LGBTQ plus community, but also children and families of color who history was denied, forcing so many to leave this community, this state, and in the case of teachers, their profession. Some of these people who have left are people I know
Barbara
and love.
Vaughn,
But we can
please,
last.
followed by Tom Peter.
Good evening, board members and superintendent. My name is Barbara Vaughn. You've seen me here many times, and I normally pray. But I'm not going to do that exactly tonight. Pastor McCabe, I believe that was his name, kind of stole my thunder. He quoted John chapter 8. I'm sure you've all heard it. May any of you who is without sin cast the first stone. I would bet my life right here tonight, if there is one person in this chamber who has not committed something in their lifetime that they would be embarrassed to read about in the paper. If you are that person, please introduce yourself to me when I'm finished speaking. Bridget, I beg you not to resign. I think it would be admirable for you to make some apology in the press. Isn't the press what got us into all this? Bridget and Christian.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Excuse me. We've been doing relatively well. Mrs. Vaughn, please continue.
The laughter you just heard is the kind of depravity that is filling this room tonight. There's not one of them who could cast the first stone. Not one. And yet all they've done is cast stones tonight at Mrs. Ziegler. She and her husband were outed to the press by political enemies, and I know who they are. I'm not going to mention them.
Excuse me, Mrs. Vaughn, you will have your time. If this is going to continue and we're not going to respect each speaker that has had the opportunity to address the board, I will be forced to clear the room. I am warning you, please. Thank you. Please, you will have your time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is not a single person in this room, no matter how many times they use the word hypocrisy. I've not heard the word forgiveness. I've not heard the word forgive. And believe me, it's in the Bible many more times than hypocrisy is. I think, Mrs. Ziegler, you should ask for some forgiveness. On the other hand, the press is who needs to ask for forgiveness, as well as the people who egged the press into writing these articles, because that's what it was. This investigation was already going on, and somebody who is an enemy, political enemy of the Zieglers, called it to the press's attention, using a con man who has spent 8 years in prison and currently misrepresents himself in this community. But he's the one that went to the press at the behest.
Thank you.
Anyway.
Tom Peter, please, followed by Rana Bazzini.
Board members, my name is Tom Peter. I have lived here since 1987. I have 3 children who went to school here in the public school system here. All of them have gotten a PhD. They were lucky enough to be in schools that were very diverse. In fact, some of their best friends were Palestinians. of Palestinian descent. And those children are still really good friends of my children. They've helped each other out throughout their lives, and that diversity has been a really good thing for them to learn. Today I was fortunate, really fortunate, to be able to go to Tuttle Elementary School and teach, and help out to teach, I should say, a 5th grade math class. I've got to give a moment to put yourself in that class. The level of their education at that point, where some of the kids could only add hard, very difficult, where some other kids were trying to do compound fractions and add them together. Some of them couldn't even subtract. Some of them didn't speak English very well. Some of them were Hungarian. Some were Portuguese. Some were Spanish. Some was Ukrainian. So not only did they have to learn the language, but they also had to be taught mathematics. Those were our students in that classroom. All varying degrees. So if you asked them and wrote out 3,212 and asked them how to say that, they didn't know how, many of them. Very difficult to teach. But here's the thing. They were really well behaved. They were on topic. The teacher had them listening to everything he said. They were polite. I didn't see any bullying. Friendly, big smiles. These are not the students who wear designer jeans and go to our private schools, now paid for by our state. These are not the students who have the latest computers, who have $200 Nike shoes on their feet. These are instead students who appreciate a pencil, a notebook, paper, and the teacher that they're learning from. They're struggling with different languages, the whole cultural difference of our country, and learning how to do math. And here's the thing about this. Our teachers are doing a remarkably good job in that school. It's impressive. The school's impressive, even though it has bullet windows and all that stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Peter. We are going to take a 3-minute break. Mrs. Bazzini, please be patient. We're going to allow the technology team to add new batteries, I believe. So at 7:45, we will return. Thank you. followed by Liz Barker, with Lisa Schur on deck. Ronna Bazzini, if you would please come to the podium for public comment, followed by Liz Barker, please, with Lisa Schur on deck. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ronna Bazzini. I am a resident of Sarasota. 7 years ago, longer than some of you have been here, I started attending school board meetings. I thought it would be a boring endeavor. Was I wrong? It has been anything but. I've witnessed the deserving firing of one superintendent, the undeserving dismissal of another. I think, Superintendent Connor, you are a keeper. I hope so. Our community has witnessed the rise of the culture wars, chaotic and sometimes raucous school board meetings, contentious school board election, COVID, and now we're witnessing the exposure of a school board member who preached one moral behavior while practicing another. Let me add, I don't care what people do in the privacy of their lives, anything, I just don't care. But that is not the issue. I was more saddened than shocked. We have a history of people so doing. I will leave it up to the psychiatrist to explain such behavior. I was willing to give the benefit of the doubt. Sadly, in our culture and our society, dirty tricks are alive and well. It's easy to accuse. It's difficult to prove, but it really doesn't matter because the damage has been done. However, hypocrisy is also alive and well. I sense Schadenfreude permeating the air. We now have another distraction preventing us from addressing the real problems facing public education. For the sake of our community, Mrs. Ziegler, Bridget, I hope you will tender your resignation. Your lovely daughters need your full attention now. Let the healing begin. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz Barker, followed by Lisa Schur with Dr. Sonia Howman on deck.
Superintendent Connor, board members, good evening. I'm Liz Barker, mom of 4 children in Sarasota County Public Schools, former school psychologist, president of the PTO at Lakeview Elementary School, and candidate for school board. This afternoon, I watched the board very briefly discuss updates to our family and school partnership policy. Given that there are no parents of public school students there to provide input, I'm here to share what parents really want when it comes to education. First, we want student-centered leadership, not politics. The radical political activists disguised as career educators on this board have made our school system a breeding ground for censorship, division, and most importantly, mistrust. The harmful rhetoric embraced by this board majority surrounding mental health and diversity has resulted in a climate where both teachers and students live in a state of fear and uncertainty. There is a deep distrust in this board, and the damage is significant. Second, we want positive role models for our children. We want board members who treat every student, parent, and teacher with dignity and respect. We want board members who are not afraid to stand up for what is right and to advocate for our students. We want our children to see trustworthy adults who conduct the business of the board ethically and with full transparency. And last, we want stability, not constant chaos and upheaval. The school board should be boring. We shouldn't be tuning into meetings, waiting to see what will happen next. Parents do not want to be on constant alert for the next outrageous decision. We've had nothing but disruptions since this board majority took over last year. Whether it's eliminating Character Strong, firing the superintendent, attempting to bring in Vermillion, or the still mysterious redistricting, our community has been subjected to a barrage of distractions. Today, we're experiencing the results of a choice by our community to elect this current board. While this board majority spends time and resources focused on personal and political interests, our achievement gap continues to widen and our students fall further behind. But here's the good news. We don't have to make those choices again. We can take back control and choose leaders who will focus on community over chaos. Thank you.
Lisa Scher, followed by Dr. Sonia Howman, with Nicholas Machuca on deck, please.
I normally come here with a speech. My name is Lisa Scher. I'm one of the co-founders of Support Our Schools. I am so sick of coming to these board meetings and fighting culture war issues, fighting against what you have tried to do to our LGBTQ community. We formed Support Our Schools for one purpose, and that was to fight for public education because we knew what was coming down the pike. And that is the privatization of our public education system and the continued underfunding of our public schools. And not a damn one of you, excuse my French, did anything about that or even made a word, said one word about it when it was going down, except for Tom Edwards. That's what you'll be remembered for. That's what you'll be remembered for. Gentleman said something to the effect that we needed to think about Mrs. Ziegler's 3 daughters. That was the very first thing that I thought about when I heard this news, because I have a daughter too. And you know what? There are a lot of parents who have LGBTQ kids. And there are a lot of parents who can't tuck those kids into bed at night anymore because they're 6 feet underground. You have done this. You have the blood on your hands. And it wasn't just doing it here in Sarasota wasn't enough. You had to take the dog and pony show on the road through the Leadership Institute. And that is why you have this crowd here tonight. People are angry. People are angry at your hypocrisy. And if you don't resign from this board, it's going to continue on and on and on. I had planned to come here a couple of weeks ago before all this hit the fan. We have some ideas at Support Our Schools on things that we can do to improve the education of our children. But no, we got to fight the culture wars every 3 weeks or 2 weeks, whatever it is. Enough, enough. Grow a set. Do something. We've had it. You need to resign.
Dr. Sonia Howman, followed by Nicholas Machuca, with Jessica Thomason on deck, please.
Thank you, Sarasota School Board, for allowing me to speak. My name is Dr. Sonia Howman. I am a Christian mother of 4 children, all of whom attend or are attending public schools. The two most important things that I have tried to instill in my children is to love their neighbors as themselves and to do the right thing when no one else is. I will not speak about Ms. Ziegler's personal life because that's exactly what it is, her personal life, to live as she sees fit. It is, however, undeniable that LGBT children and LGBT families have been under attack by the state legislature, an attack pushed forward by Ms. Ziegler. It is your job to be fiduciaries for every student in this district. LGBT students, students of color, students who don't happen to be Christian. Every child deserves to recognize themselves in a book. Every student, LGBT students, non-Christian students, students of every race, every child deserves this. Recognizing oneself in a book can be life-changing, and in some cases, it can be life-saving. I ask Sarasota County that you allow students to learn a full and accurate African American history, which is our American history. The students of Sarasota County cannot, should not, be allowed to arrive at graduation ignorant and afraid of people unlike them. You have an extraordinary opportunity to be on the right side of history here. You have the opportunity to do the right thing. I have faith that some of you have the foresight, the insight, or simply a basic understanding of the cycles of history to know that the Florida of 2023 will not be remembered kindly by history. Leaders in administrations that practice the revocation of civil rights, censorship, book banning are almost uniformly reviled in time. We Americans love our civil rights, as we've proved over and over again lately at the ballot boxes. Our nation is currently watching Florida, and specifically, for better or worse, it's watching this school district. For better or worse, your faces will be in the archives of our local papers. They will be in the archives of national papers, and who knows, they could even end up in a history book. You have the extraordinary opportunity to end up on the right side of this. You have the opportunity to reject this censorship and to reverse the abject cruelty, and I mean cruelty, to the LGBT students, the non-white students, and the non-Christian students. So Sarasota County School Board, I ask you to love your neighbors and have the courage to do the right thing for all students, even if no one else is. I charge you with that.
Nicholas Machuca, please, followed by Jessica Thomason with Tracy Fern on deck.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here again with Equality Florida. As always, we're the statewide LGBTQ civil rights organization. The harm that Bridget Ziegler has inflicted with her extremist political rhetoric, discriminatory policies, and now her hypocrisy is indisputable. Bridget Ziegler has worked relentlessly to target LGBTQ students and families for harassment and discrimination, and to erase depictions of LGBTQ people from schools entirely. Now, let me be clear. Participation in same-sex activities is not shameful. However, Bridget Ziegler has done this while simultaneously denigrating our community and working overtime to instill policies that directly marginalize us. That hypocrisy is unacceptable. I've spoken here many times, and I have never once called for Ziegler's resignation. I've always hoped that despite our vast differences, we could find shared values and come together to do what's best for Sarasota students. I was wrong to believe this. The Zieglers have no core values. Their only goal is to chase political power. Bridget and Christian Ziegler have stepped on the backs of marginalized communities across Florida. They have demonized LGBTQ people, disparaged our community, and hurt our families in their quest for more power. And they pursued that power by lying to all of you. The Zieglers started the Moms for Liberty organization claiming to advance parental rights, but their goal has always been power. In the pursuit of this power, they have used parents as pawns to advance their radical right-wing agenda. The Zieglers lied to all of you. Our students deserve highly qualified and well-trained educators in every classroom. Our students deserve a wide variety of books and libraries. Parents have the right to send their kids to schools that are not overcrowded and unsafe. Instead of working on these commonly supported and unifying goals, the Zieglers attacked the LGBTQ community while dabbling in our lifestyle. The Zieglers have lied to you, and they will continue to lie as long as we let them. Bridget Ziegler is an architect of Moms for Liberty. It is not a grassroots movement. It is a cynical, sick tool hatched by the Zieglers to sow fear and division for political gain. They seek to dismantle public education by turning schools over to book-banning extremists who censor and whitewash history, and they relentlessly attack the LGBTQ community. The Zieglers have no place making decisions about our schools. The hypocrisy and the harm must end now. When we allow anti-LGBTQ policies to invade our schools, we risk our youth growing up to become sad, repressed people who live one life in public and another in private. We join all board members in urging Bridget Ziegler to resign. Her presence here is a distraction from actual issues that real leaders must address. She has turned this school board into a circus, and her continued occupation of a board seat is a joke and a stain on this district. Thank you.
Excuse me. Jessica Thomason, followed by, I believe it's Tracy Fern. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's fine.
Thank you.
My name is Jessica Thomason, and I'm the parent of 2 children in Sarasota County Schools. Mrs. Ziegler, when the community you represent, a community that rarely agrees on anything, comes together for one purpose, and that purpose is to seek your resignation, it's time to listen. Unfortunately, headlines about politicians being embroiled in sex scandals are not uncommon. They're so common, in fact, that many of us are desensitized to it. But the rape allegation is the least shocking part of this. No one is here tonight because of your husband. This scandal would not be national news if not for your blatant hypocrisy. Your sex life is none of my business, just like no one else's here is yours. In any other universe, you might be considered a victim, the victim of a cheating husband, a sensationalist media, the morality police. But we're in a universe where you have attempted to codify your personal moral code, a moral code you clearly don't follow yourself. You're the reason why LGBTQ children and their families feel unsafe, and at the urging of your husband, are leaving the state of Florida. You have made policing the sexuality of complete strangers your entire personality. I know you've been coached to believe that apologizing makes you look weak and to never back down, but if you honestly care about the important work of the school board and want the focus to be on the kids, you will check your own ego and step aside. There is strength in humility. For the last several years, you've capitalized on a carefully crafted persona of the all-American, morally superior mama bear, and you're likely facing an identity crisis tonight. It's okay to reflect, to grow, and change course. It's okay to apologize. It seems as though you have chosen to double down. Your smugness and arrogance is disappointing but not surprising. I have to say, though, I'm optimistic at hearing so many of those on the right have come around to the idea that what happens in someone's bedroom is no one else's concern. Mrs. Ziegler, regardless of how little responsibility you believe is yours to bear in this situation, stepping down from your position is the right thing to do. To everyone watching at home disappointed in what this board has become, you must vote on August 20th. I will be casting my vote for Liz Barker and Tom Edwards. Thank you.
Nancy Harris is on deck, followed by Steve Russell, please.
My goal here today is not to bring up the things that aren't my business because, quite frankly, they aren't. I do want, however, to call out and condemn the banning of books, including those that demonstrate in an age-appropriate way the love and commitment are not only reserved for relationships between men and women. Such books will help children accept and affirm people regardless of their gender or sexuality. Apparently, in an attempt to silence and eradicate adults and children that don't conform to her professed ideological thoughts, Bridget is now, in fact, directly acting to harm her own interests by supporting these book bans. I can only assume that social pressures were so intense that she not only publicly denied her sexuality, she also took steps to ensure that the pressure would only be increased for herself and others. A choice to ban such books, or any books, from a schoolhouse makes it harder for parents like me to raise children who can grow to be empathetic adults. Our Sarasota library system is pulling out of the American Library Association. Perhaps Ms. Ziegler and others who have contributed to the fiery political hate storm can turn their focus now towards the hard work of putting out those fires and putting books back on shelves. If this were anyone else in this position or on this board that was liberal or gay, you would crucify them. You would be demanding their immediate resignation. Every single Moms for Liberty chapter would be screaming from every corner of the country that this is exactly what they've been sounding the alarms about, that our children are being subjected to grooming and sexual deviance. You'd be calling for their arrest, for God's sake. Oh, and I'll spare a thought for a mother of 3 when she spares a thought for the thousands of mothers like me, when she spares a thought for my family and my non-binary child, the same child she didn't give a thought to when on the new college presidential search committee, the same child's fate she was happy to seal, ensuring they were put in a position to be targeted, harassed, and in literal fear for their safety with your thoughtless participation on that board. Bridget, I not only invite you, I challenge you to join us in our fight for equality for all LGBTQ, BIPOC, and marginalized children and families. Look, I think it's great that you have curiosity and you participated in some sexual exploration. Coming out, her own words, coming out as LGBTQ is tough to do with support from family and friends. Take that support away and you have a group of kids that have the highest suicide rate in the country. Look around this room. You'll see that many of us have either gone through this process or have children or family members that have. You have more support sitting in this room right now than many of us had in our lives, and should you need a shoulder to lean on or someone to talk to, we'll be here. However, if you continue to be the hypocritical bigot we've all come to know you as, then let me be very clear. We are used to fighting for our rights, and we're good at it. And know this definitively. We will not back down, we will never give up, and we will be anything but forgiving.
Now, Nancy Harris, followed by Steve Russell with India Miller on deck, please. Nancy Harris. Let's go to Steve Russell. Followed by India Miller, please.
Good. Every student, every day, it's on an awning in front of your building. Every one of you people on this board should live by that. I know at least one that does not. Her motto more appears to be, every student except for the ones I put a target on for my own personal and political gain. You have emotionally and psychologically damaged countless students, parents, and teachers with your hateful rhetoric. Resign.
India Miller. Followed by Sue Maloney, please.
Hi, my name's India Miller. I'm a graduate of Florida Public Schools. I came out as transgender in 1989, long before being trans became an issue used by politicians like you, Mrs. Ziegler, to organize voters by leveraging an environment of fear, judgment, and hate that you created merely to advance your notoriety and personal wealth. I'm here today because I want to see you remove yourself from this board. The fact that your best judgment, your moral compass deemed it appropriate to walk around in a t-shirt that states real women aren't men when you are entrusted to represent the transgendered students of Sarasota is so outrageously inappropriate that alone requires you to step aside. Openly mocking students you represent, deciding this is so relevant to whom you are as a human being that you want it printed on a garment, and that your judgment, your best judgment, decided it was the best garment out of all your garments for you to wear as a representative of the students of Sarasota Public Schools. It is such a glaring example of how inappropriate your character is for a position like this. Bridget, you push judgment, shame, and hate. You taunt the students who have the highest suicide and murder rates of any of these students, the very students you were voted to represent. This speaks volumes about you as a human being. It speaks volumes about your character. You don't represent these students, and by doing so, you don't represent any students. You've done all of this in order to promote yourself and your political ambitions on the back of these students so that you can profit. This is your truth, and it's a really ugly one. Your best judgment led you to believe you could condemn other people's sexual choices while making those same choices yourself, and that you'd never be held accountable. Well, here you are, you're being held accountable. You're not above accountability. Now step down and go. You've become ridiculous and an incredible distraction. Clearly, your judgment won't lead you to realize you should go. So I'm here to tell you, you should go, Bridget, go. And I listened to Ms. Rose and Mr. Eno speak about the kids, what message we're sending to the kids, etc. This is the message you're sending to the kids of Sarasota. And we hear you. We see you saying this is okay. We see you supporting Bridget in these antics. Your complicity to her cruelty and your lack of oversight are visible. We see you. They see you. Everyone sees you. And we're going to vote you out. Thank you.
Sue Maloney, followed by Maria Glassberg, followed by Ty Day Smith, please. Do we have Sue Maloney? Raise your hand if you're here, please. Maria Glassberg? Are you Maria?
And Mirella.
Thank you.
My name is Mirella Glassberg, and I'm a person, and Bridget Ziegler is a fraud. And that is because she's been repressing, using her authoritative position of power to repress students, to repress the LGBTQ community, and immigrants, and people of color, and to bring a lot of bad measures, while she herself is enjoying the bisexual of the LGBT. Good thing. I hope you have enjoyed yourself, because there's nothing wrong. And I want to thank the organization that brought forth all this to the papers, because this was going on since October and we didn't know about it. And so I want to thank that organization, because it's our right to know what character our politicians have. And I have not voted for you, but unfortunately you had enough votes of people that didn't realize that you say one thing and then you do the other thing. The hypocrisy is the least of it. The worst of it is the repression that you're doing over other people. That is terrible. And the other thing is, it's ridiculous that there is no student here. I'm sure that the student that would sit here is not 5 nor 7 years old. We're also not discussing sex. And if we were, remember sex ed? So, you know, if there's one good thing about this, is the fact that it came out that, yeah, as a prominent person that even may talk bad about LGBT, he also enjoys the LGBT life. Let's face it, families are changing. We have a lot of families with couples of the same gender. A lot of them raise kids together. We have some families that are 3 adults living together and sharing, including the bed and sex together. We have to come about with the times. You know, we can't be like, oh, this false morality of the past and all these regressive measures that you all are bringing about. So I hope this board will come to the times and remember that the emotional well-being of students is also a part of their possibility to learn. Without emotional well-being, there is no possibility to learn. So y'all have to get your act together and provide real good grounds for people to feel accepted, to feel welcomed, and to be respected in this county. Resign, Bridget.
Ty Day Smith, followed by Kimberly Cox, with, I believe it's Janalee Heineman on deck. Please.
Hi, guys. My name's Ty Day Smith. I'm here with Women's Voices of Southwest Florida. You know, when they say these things come in threes, this is not what I thought they meant, but I'm here for it. As a queer parent of 4 children here in Sarasota County, I have felt for a long time that families like my own have been overlooked by the educational system here in Florida. That is, of course, until Bridget Ziegler came into the picture, and now I feel like instead we are being targeted. It's been implied by Bridget Ziegler time and time again that there is an underlying moral corruptness to queerness, and that young people need to be protected from it. I think it's unquestionably fair to say that Bridget Ziegler is undeserving of her role on this board. But where we differ from the far right is that we're not calling for this resignation because of her sexuality, her personal relationships, or her perceived Christian shortcomings. We understand more than most what it's like to be under attack for who you sleep with or how you identify. No one, no matter what side of the aisle they are on, deserves to lose a job, a position, or support just for being who they are. Bridget Ziegler does not deserve to lose her job because she may be queer. She should lose it because she's insincere. Because she knew at the time of passing rules that hurt the community, especially the children under her care, that she was being blatantly disingenuous. Any board member that cannot lead by example simply does not belong on a board. Bridget, it's okay to say gay.
Kimberly Cox, followed by Jenna Lee Heineman.
Good evening, I'm Kimberly Cox. I drove over 2 hours to be here. I am the proud parent of a high school senior. My child is also a member of the LGBTQ community. Thoughts, actions, and decisions of Ms. Ziegler have greatly and negatively affected their life. Despite your actions, your intentions, and your goals, Ms. Ziegler, my child is alive and my child is thriving. Ms. Ziegler, you should really admit to yourself and to every single person in this room and watching tonight that there are many parents that cannot say the same about their child because of your actions. Folks have said that on your behalf that we should be respectful of you as you were a mother. But where's the respect for me as a mother? Where's the respect for my child's life? So I will continue to cast stones at you. I was fairly conflicted about what I wanted to say to all of you today, because I am in no way, shape, or form asking for Bridget to resign for the sexual encounters or fetishes. While her behavior in these situations is hypocritical, it does not warrant removal as long as everyone involved is a consenting adult. The part that I take issue with is that it has been your choice to stand by your man and to remain silent about his actions. And I don't see him standing here supporting you, so that's kind of wild to me, honestly. I'll never be on board with punishing a woman for the sins of a man. But your silence and your complacency is dangerous and it's unethical. The role you played in creating Moms for Liberty, a recognized hate group, your desire to ban books in school libraries that clearly amounts to fascism and homophobia, your stance on the bathroom bill that screams transphobia, and the racism you exhibit when you're discussing what you call woke ideology, these things, along with your silence, are the reasons that you should absolutely be removed from this board. Our children are not safe with someone whose beliefs are antiquated and extremely bigoted. Furthermore, I hope that the police department is swift in the arrest and prosecution of your husband.
Point of orders.
And as a survivor of sexual assault, I hope that the woman that is the victim in this case knows that there is an army of people who stand by her and support her. And shame on you for showing your face again without stepping down. You should be disappointed in yourself and you should be a better role model for your children.
Jenna Lee Heineman, followed by, I believe it's Lola or Layla Smith, with Chloe Boggs on deck.
Hi, I'm Jenna Lee Heineman, and I'm not here like the others to cast judgment on Bridget Ziegler and what she does sexually. I'm here because of her hypocrisy and the harm she's done to so many others by casting judgment on their sexuality. My husband and I are a straight couple, but we have many friends in the LGBTQ community. Most of them are seniors like us, and we have heard their tragic stories of what they went through in their youth because they had to stay in the closet and struggle with their own identity. Now, because of decisions made by Bridget Ziegler and so many like her, we have an entire new generation being forced back into the closet or risk public shame. PEN America's report stated, if teachers are afraid to make mention of race or LGBTQ plus identities in the classroom, if they are afraid to answer students' questions, if quality educators are leaving and cannot be replaced, students are the ones who suffer the most. We've lived in Sarasota full-time for 30 years and have grandchildren in the Sarasota school system. So we have a personal stake in what we see as a significant regression in social justice in the school system and a movement towards authoritarianism in our state in general. We want our children, our grandchildren, and all children to live in a society where love wins and everyone belongs.
Lola Smith, I believe is your first name. If not, please correct me, followed by Chloe Boggs with Betsy Braden on deck, or
Hi.
Retsy Braden.
Hi, my name is Lola Smith. I'm a student here in Sarasota, and I would just like to point out that I would rather have my educational decisions made by the golden doodle with the talking buttons on TikTok than you, Mrs. Ziegler. Thank you.
Chloe Boggs.
I'm Chloe Boggs. I'm president of Women's Voices Southwest Florida Youth Chapter and a Riverview High School graduate. If I made a long speech, I'd be repeating all the things I've said at the board meetings before. But Bridget, you got. I've had this feeling for a long time, but now the community has come together and decided it's time for you to go. Your hate that you manifested and scrounged up from your homophobic followers has come full circle and exploded in your face in a mess of hypocrisy. Under the Don't Say Gay law that you helped write, your own family dynamic and lifestyle wouldn't be allowed to be discussed in schools. How does it feel? An apology will not be enough for the harm you caused the students, teachers, and community of our county. If you want to do something good for our schools, you can step down. Today, right now.
Chloe Boggs. Excuse me. Retsy Braden, please, followed by Harold Young, and then Clayton Taylor on deck, please.
Hi, my name is Betsy Braden. Thank you for letting me speak. My kids went to Hillsborough County Public Schools. One went to FSU, the other one went to New College. I'm here to ask for the resignation of Bridget Ziegler. She's done enough damage to public education in Florida. The Ziegler circus has taken over Sarasota from the ringling of yore and needs to end. My trans child had to leave New College due to the toxic environment the hostile takeover caused on LGBTQ students and academic freedom. My daughter is at Hampshire. Our school costs have skyrocketed due to increased tuition and transportation costs. Bridget Ziegler helped pass the Don't Say Gay bill that led the attack on the LGBTQ. She is one of the reasons why my kid had to leave Florida and now is a political refugee. Bridget is on the presidential search committee for New College and helped elect Richard Corcoran. Corcoran has no higher ed experience and is currently under federal investigation. He is destroying the school while grifting away our tax dollars. We are sick of your hate and the destruction you have caused to public education. Please be a good, joyful warrior and go away.
Harold Young, followed by Clayton Taylor, with Jules Rain on deck, please.
Good evening. My name is Harold Young. I'm first vice president of the Minnesota branch of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. Ms. Ziegler, you have tarnished the soul of the school board here with hypocrisy and duplicity. Sarasota County Public Schools students expect you to be the dean of integrity, not the personification of duplicity, described by Robert Louis Stevenson as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Students of Sarasota want to know you respect the truth. truth about the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion, truth about their history. Remember, Ms. Ziegler, true black history is American history. Just like Brutus and Julius Caesar, the cut, your cut on the black history curriculum was the most unkindest cut of all. Students did not expect that you would vilify and disparage them. Students have lost trust in you. Parents have lost trust in you. The community has lost trust in you. Your conduct on the school board and community is reprehensible and unacceptable. Ms. Ziegler, the school board cannot function as it should with international media spotlighting you as having lost your way. Your activities on and off the board have caught the attention of a small town in Croatia. Your spearheading of culture wars, bigotry, and homophobia must stop. You have no options left. Ms. Ziegler, you must step down. You must step down immediately. Thank you.
Clayton Taylor, please, followed by Jules Rain. And with Cynthia, I believe it is Shella Hargel on deck.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Clayton Taylor. I'm a resident of Sarasota County. We've been through a lot of politicians since the 60s. We've had L.B. Johnson, we've had Richard Nixon, we've had Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan, and Barack Obama and the whole group. And we've also re-elected congressional representatives that were convicted felons from Florida. So that was Al C. Hastings, a convicted federal judge for taking bribes. So obviously we have our share of skullduggery, and what I'm here to talk about tonight is getting us refocused on reading, math, history as it is, and science. We need to do away with all this hypersexualization and groups and echo chambers and not be a useful pawn to the socialist communist agenda of the left. So hypocrisy and lying are the same thing to me. So whether it's about sex or whether it's about the actual truth or facts or outlines in a legal complaint, you know, to me, hypocrisy and lying is the same. So what's about to happen is the definition of sex. The sex is the classification of a person as either female or male based on the originization of the body of such person for a reproductive role, as indicated by the person's sex chromosomes, naturally occurring sex hormones, or internal and external genetic present at birth. Anything else is a lie or perjury. So now when children are unemancipated, this is between them and their parents. And it should not be, as a parent, I don't want it induced into my son or child through books or any other things, okay? I want them to get reading, math, history, and science. So I'm tired of this echo chamber with the LGBTQX community. I don't think it should be in our schools at all. I think they should have a safe place if they need to get counseling or guidance or mental health. So let's keep that out of our schools. Let's focus on our education. We have a big gap on literacy and other things, and let's stay focused on that. Now, as far as Ms. Ziegler, obviously we have a president who lied in the last debate about his criminal activities. We have all these things going on. So obviously I wish you would, you know, I hope that you refocus on your kids, your family, your marriage. And I think you should just stay in office and focus on our kids' education, and let's get on to the business of running the school board. Thank you for hearing me out.
Jules Rain, or Rainey, please say your name, followed by Cynthia Shella Hargel and Hannah Silva. On deck, please.
Good evening. My name is Jules Rain. I'm a community organizer with Equality Florida. I'm a former high school social studies teacher. I'm a parent of a beautiful girl and whom I love more than life itself. And I am a proud transgender woman who started a support group in Sarasota for people of transgender experience who have to deal with the sort of laws and hatred and bigotry espoused by Ms. Ziegler and the gentleman who just spoke before me. I'm here today to call for the resignation of Bridget Ziegler from the Sarasota County School Board and to call for her to apologize to the students and community of Sarasota for the hypocrisy of her actions in working to discriminate against the LGBTQ community. I don't judge people for their personal relationships, nor for what they do in their bedroom, and I'm not calling on her to resign because she was in a queer polyamorous relationship, and I do not stand with those who would call for her resignation simply based on how she lives in her private life. Christian and Bridget Ziegler are moral crusaders who have become moral failures because they baselessly accused LGBTQ Floridians in non-traditional relationships of immorality, sexual perversion, and deviance while working tirelessly to create laws and policies which discriminate against LGBTQ families and students. Due to Bridget Ziegler's efforts, LGBTQ students are no longer allowed to read books in which their families are represented. Her efforts have directly led to an increase in school bullying for LGBTQ students and an increase in teacher shortages because LGBTQ teachers have quit their jobs for fear of being outed or discriminated against in this county. She has also allowed the only openly gay member of this school board to be harassed and threatened during school board meetings while doing nothing to stop it. Bridget Ziegler has spent years telling people how to live, what to read, and who to be, all the while doing the very things she was crusading against behind closed doors. You've used your position to advance your own political agenda to gain power and influence while infringing upon the rights and freedoms of LGBTQ students across the state. This is hypocrisy of the worst kind. The Zieglers have hurt LGBTQ families and stepped on the backs of children and parents in their quest for political and personal power. The good work of this school board cannot reasonably continue unless Bridget Ziegler resigns from her position on the school board. Because of her hypocrisy and involvement in these allegations is a distraction from the real work of the Sarasota County School Board to ensure that every student receives an excellent education free from harassment and discrimination. Thank you.
Cynthia Shella Hargel, followed by Hannah Silva with Anya Dennison on deck.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Schelleberger, and I was a health education teacher for 20 years. Ms. Ziegler, I have a question for you. Do you feel safe? There's a lot of people here against you. So I will ask again. Do you feel safe? I ask because I tell you that what students want most in school is to feel safe. How do you feel safe if you are an LGBTQ plus student or a black student who is continually being harassed by their own school board member? Bridget Ziegler, you must resign. And what do students hate the most? Leaders who are hypocrites. Bridget Ziegler, you must resign. The only thing wrong with this meeting is that students were not allowed to attend. Of course, if they were, it would be a parent's choice. But But what is happening here is a real education. Imagine what students would learn. Power, control, greed, book bans, hate, rape, menage a trois. So I will ask you, Ms. Ziegler, how would you address the students of Sarasota County? Now, pretend a student is sitting right there. Now, look them in the eye. Look. Would you apologize? Would you resign? What would you say? What would you say? What would you say?
Thank you. Hannah Silva, please, followed by Anya Dennison.
Good evening, board members. My name is Hannah Silva. I am a senior at Suncoast Polytechnical High School. I'm here today to speak to the board and speak to Ms. Bridget Ziegler directly. Ms. Ziegler, I come here today to thank you. I thank you for being the driving force behind why I want to be an advocate. Your advocacy for the Don't Say Gay bill and other dangerous policies that directly affect immigrant and BIPOC students has changed how I live my day-to-day life. Rather than spend my time being a kid, I've now dedicated a large part of my free time for advocating for the rights of my communities in this county, which you have helped strip away. The policies you have helped pass make us feel unsafe and uncomfortable, and I'm determined to make sure that our schools can return to safety and peace. Your endless hypocrisy has inspired even the youth to speak out against it. So once again, I thank you for reducing the quality of student life in Sarasota County to the point where I, as a student, must be the one to tell you the damage that you have done. Resign. Thank you.
Anya Dennison, please hold back the clapping. Use the hands, please. Thank you.
I'm Anya, a Pineview 2 through 12er that graduated in 2022, went off to school in upstate New York, and came back after a semester because my friends were under further and further attack by the oppressive policies Mrs. Ziegler and people like her were implementing, and I couldn't stand to watch it from afar. Since I've come back, I've helped open a safe space for young people to find community and organize themselves because the oppressive policies Mrs. Ziegler and her colleagues have implemented have completely destroyed the one that I found and loved at Pineview, my public school. No one deserves to have their private life put on blast, Mrs. Ziegler. I'm so sorry that that happened to you. Completely separately of that fact, the rest of the speakers are right. You do not deserve to stay in your role. Not because of your private life, but because you spent your tenure on the board harming Sarasota's young people. Bridget, I'm calling on you to resign.
August Ray, followed by Kayak Sanchez, with Danielle Lustig on deck, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is August Ray, and I'm a senior at Sarasota High School. I'd like to address my statement specifically to Bridget Ziegler. I'm so sorry that all this stuff about your personal life came to light. Everyone has the right to privacy, and to have that taken from you is truly violating. That being said, I find it deeply ironic that you, as a champion of the Don't Say Gay bill, have been outed in the same way trans kids are outed in Sarasota County schools. Because of the policy you implemented, I had to risk getting disowned by my parents in order to be called by my preferred name at school. Because of your policy, you required teachers to dead name students like me or risk losing their jobs. Yet despite your policy, you deserve the same privacy you have denied and continue to deny from the queer and trans students you were meant to represent. You need to resign.
Kayak Sanchez, followed by Daniel Lustig, please.
Hello.
Excuse me, sorry. My name is Kayak Sanchez. I'm very shaky, if you couldn't tell. I come from all the way down in Collier County. I know, very far from home right now. I'm a little out of my league here. I've come to just tell you a bit of my story and how Bridget Ziegler's actions have affected me. Now, I respect you all as people, and it is wonderful to meet you, and I hope you grant me the same amount of respect. My name is Kayak Sanchez, though I was not born with that name. I named myself Kayak because I love boating, and I try to go with the flow as much as I can, adjust to things, adjust to waves, try not to crash too much. But despite that, it is still my name. Despite the fact that I chose it, it is still my name. And I am a student in Collier County, actually. I should have mentioned that first. I am a student. And, goodness, I am so nervous. Thank you. I am a trans student, actually. My pronouns are he, him. I was born with a female body, and I know a lot of people would disagree that that does not make me a man, that does not make me a boy. But I remember when I was 6 years old, I would pray to God. I am religious myself. I would pray to God to make me into a boy, to make me have the body of a boy, like the boys in my neighborhood and the ones in my classes, because I felt like a boy. I can't explain myself much beyond that. Gender is a cultural construct. I am allowed to represent myself how I so wish, I feel, and you are allowed to represent yourself as you so wish. That is your right as an American, which is a beautiful country, wonderful country. Thank you for listening. I'm not going to tell you to resign if you don't want to, but you have negatively affected my educational life. I've failed many classes because of the stress of not being able to live as I so please. Thank you.
Daniel Lustig, followed by Michael Tiggs, please. With Bettina Guy on deck.
All right. Has the time begun? Thank you. Now, I originally had a speech planned to talk about hypocrisy, a basic speech written. But as I listened to the testimonies of our fellow LGBT community, I decided to talk of my own experiences. I have two different experiences directly relate to this, relate to us. I am an LGBT student. I experienced what it was like to grow up being afraid of who I was. But that was not through my parents. My mother, she passed away when I was young, and I was raised in a single-father household. But my father got a roommate. His name was Wayne Brockman, a wonderful man. There were two straight men, my fathers. They both took care of me as best they could. And I was still mocked. I was called Danny has two dads, just for the mere existence of having two men in my house, two wonderful people to help raise me. I experienced that. But my father raised me differently. He was a Quaker, a small Christian sect spread off from the Enlightenment era. His belief was in vices and queries. His advice and queries to me taught me to love myself and treat everyone with a modicum of respect, no matter what. And I talk to you, Ms. Ziegler. This obsession with the nuclear family that I hear so much that the Moms of Liberty talk about has been proven false. While you do not follow this principle yourself, may I remind you of an ironic quote, "I am not a crook." I hope you know how that story ended. Thank you.
Michael Tiggs, followed by Tina et Ted Guy. Is Michael here? Please raise your hand if you're here. Bettina et Ted Guy, I believe, followed by Teresa Lynn Ellers with Camilla Chapman on deck.
My name is Bettina Etedgi.
Thank you.
I am a Sarasota citizen. I raised my children in this county. My children were educated by me in my home. I taught them right from wrong. I taught them the Bible. I taught them love and hate. I taught them all the things that they need to know, and then you guys got the academic part. So I want to share my thanks to the board because you're part of this county that raised my children to be who they are, and they're good citizens. They follow the Constitution. The Constitution was another Bible that we had in our home. This has not been violated by Bridget Ziegler nor her husband. There is no law been broken here. There is no distance with what I feel about you guys from what your family relationship is, your family unit. That's your problem. That's your incident right now. But what I'm here is to support you, that I believe that you should stay on the board and you should correct, your wrongs. And at the same time, as far as the LGBT, history is repeating itself. We also had President Clinton in office. I had to teach my children sex education at home. It's not your job to teach them that. It's not the school books to have to teach them that. It's the parents' responsibility. That's where they're learning their values. They learn it in their church and in their homes, not in the schools. Religion has no place in the schools. But right now, if you want to go back to history, you have the book of the Bible, and it talks about Sodom and Gomorrah being destroyed, the earth with Noah being destroyed. And Jesus said, in the last days, it will be as those days. So this was expected. LGBT was expected. Baby killing was expected. But what else is expected is the second coming of Jesus Christ. And he's coming, and nobody's going to stop it, and his kingdom will be on this earth, and we won't have a president or all these Mickey Mouse things that's going on in society now, because it's going to be run by the one and true God. And I thank you for your time.
Teresa, if you could just hold for 1 second while the mic is adjusted. Thank you. Following Teresa Ellers is Camilla Chapman and Xander Moritz, please. Thank you.
I'm just found out I'm not dying of cancer yesterday, and I'm here to represent my father, who's not here. He sat in your chair, Mrs. Ziegler. He was chairman, reelected, of the Sarasota School Board, Dr. Richard W. Ehlers. And he would have been here to tell you all you need an education. And he would say, this board doesn't respect what that woman just said about the Constitution, because you don't respect the people. You're notorious, Ms. Ziegler, and school board members that don't respect your teachers. You don't give them what they need in order to do their jobs. It's a shame. You don't know how you're dividing our country, one school board at a time. One person at a time, you're dividing this country. You're dividing people, you're dividing families. That's a shame. You're a shame. You should be ashamed of yourselves for what you've done to this beautiful county that we had a fantastic education system going before you destroyed it piece by piece by piece. Get an education. Understand what fascism is different than Republican. You're fascist. You're not Republicans.
Camilla Chapman, please, followed by Xander Maurice, with Dr. Mike Weddle on deck. I believe that Camilla Chapman is not, is Camilla here? No. Please.
Bridget, our first ever interaction was when you retweeted a hate article about me from The Nationalist while I was a Sarasota County school student. You are a reminder that some people view politics as a service to others, while some view it as an opportunity for themselves. On this board, you have spent public funds that could have been used to increase teacher pay, to change our district lines for political gain, remove books from schools, target trans and queer children, erase Black history, and elevate your political career, all while sending your children to private schools because you do not believe in the public school system that you've been leading. My question is, why doesn't an elected official using our money to harm our students and our teachers for her gain seem to matter as much to us as her having a threesome does? Bridget Ziegler, you do not deserve to be on the Sarasota County School Board, but you do not deserve to be removed from it for having a threesome. That defeats the lesson we've been trying to teach you, which is that a politician's job is to serve their community, not to police personal lives. So, to be extra clear, Bridget, you deserve to be fired from your job because you are terrible at your job, not because you had sex with a woman.
Dr. Mike Weddle, Larry Wilson, with Jerry Meyer on deck.
Members of the board, Madam Chairperson, Superintendent, it was just a few weeks ago that we elected a new chairperson for this board. I bid on some boards, and my hope was that even if people disagreed with you, they would all have enough regard for you to wish you success and your intention to talk about education, to enable you to have success as you started your term. And I had no idea that the person who would disrespect you most would be a fellow board member. But now you have an albatross around your neck. We have the national media focusing their spotlight on this board. And I agree with you, Madam Chairperson, that this board will not be able to move ahead effectively until the previous chairperson steps down and removes herself from the board. You know, under normal circumstances, increasing the gender fluidity of a public board to more closely resemble the world that our Creator gave us and that our students are growing into would be a good thing. The problem here is the distraction and the hypocrisy. The reason why I can follow our local Sarasota County School Board by watching the British Broadcasting Corporation is the hypocrisy. That's the story. And you know, I have stood at this podium in the past and I've said that the previous chairperson's political activities was a conflict of interest with leading a diverse school system. Shaming trans students, associating with anti-Semitic groups like the Proud Boys, Vermilion with its roots in white supremacy. Those were all distractions that took away from the business of the board. And this is not going to go away. It's only going to get worse. There was a story in the Herald Tribune just this past weekend. I'm only quoting the headline on the front page. The headline was, Ziegler sex video. We know how technology works. It's only a matter of time until all of our students are on their phones watching the Ziegler sex video. That is our future unless something is done. If the resolution was not binding, and if Ms. Ziegler, you're the only person that can fix this, let's see if you're up to it.
Larry Wilson, followed by Jerry Meyer, with Linda Wilson on deck.
I recall, oh, by the way, my name is Larry Wilson. All of you, everybody. I recall that public comment in board meetings here that attacked board members was not allowed. And yet here we are with more attacks than there have ever been and you guys sit up there and just let it happen. Talk about hypocrisy. The predominance of people in this room will undoubtedly call me a bigot for telling the truth about who they are. This room and the dais is full of hateful people whose only focus is the destruction of board member Bridget Ziegler. Mrs. Ziegler is by her presence the bravest person in this room, not them. The woke mob is good at turning out a mob, but they are always unable to stay on point. They just lie. They make up false flag issues so that they can talk against them. I feel sorry for them if they weren't so evil. They can't think logically. Here is a board that ran as conservatives and then changed to ally themselves with leftists and communists and promote sexual emotional learning and the twisted CRT curriculum. Well, the gallery tonight is not normal. They are voters, but they are not normal. They are a woke minority. The leftists stand behind one of their own, a person who has openly lived a dissipated and shameful homosexual lifestyle. How many people to whom he was not married do you think this gay board member has had sex with himself?
Point of order. Excuse me.
They side with Ron DeSantis and his minions to get rid, I've lost my place, to get rid of Mr. Ziegler because as state GOP chair, he would not use his office to keep Donald Trump off the ballot. And the you-know-what has slid downhill. Finally, Mrs. Ziegler is innocent of any crime. Bridget, please do not let these communists drive you out. Let them be eaten by their own hate.
You'll get your time, Mr. Wilson, but if we can't regain the respect that we've had through the course of this meeting,
me or them.
Everybody needs to be quiet and listen and allow the public comment to proceed, and you will have your time, Mr. Wilson.
Am I back? Finally, Mrs. Ziegler is innocent of any crime. Bridget, don't let them drive you out. Let them be eaten by their own hate. Mr. Ziegler is also innocent because he has not been convicted. They don't know the Constitution, so they wouldn't realize that. But many sinners in this room have been convicted and will go to damnation unless they repent of their sins, as God is my witness. I am asking now for the resignation of Tom Edwards.
Jerry Meyer, followed by Linda Wilson, with, I believe it's Gary Dickinson, I'm not sure. Jerry Meyer, welcome.
Jerry Meyer, that's me. Hi, Bridget. Hello, everybody. I'm not really here to talk about sexuality. I'd like to, it's pretty cool. And I'm not here to talk about LGBTQ. But as I understand, this situation here is characteristic of our society as a whole, and the trajectory that we're going along is that we're controlled by government. Every aspect of our lives, we are slaves. We only believe what we are told. We only know what we are told. And the government controls what we're told. The narrative that we receive is, we don't choose that. We only have the narrative that we receive and the perspective that it's given to support that narrative. And I'm saying that we don't know the narrative of Bridget Ziegler. We don't know the narrative of each other. We only know what we hear. And I'm saying that this situation is a weaponization of the media. We haven't really talked about Bridget's merits and the good that she's done for this community and the great decisions that she's made. Now, I don't know. I haven't been, I'm not a follower of the legacy media myself, but I know somewhere there's a story about the great things that she's done because I've heard of some of them, okay? And we should be bringing those things up, the good that she's done. So what I'm concerned about is that those that have staged this affair of impeachment for their own political gain, those who have staged this and brought the media in before, you're supposed to be innocent before proven guilty in this country. But all of a sudden we're convicting somebody right here, you know, by public opinion. That's not right. We have legal systems, you know, that supposed to be fair and impartial to bring these facts to light. And before that happens, we're here crucifying, you know. Let's bring on Barabbas, you know, if you want to talk about the Bible. So I'm going to say that those who have staged this affair of impeachment and weaponized the media against a political opponent.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Linda Wilson, please, followed by, I apologize, I'm not sure the first name, Gary, perhaps Dickinson, with Connie Bruni on deck.
We are here today to evaluate how two eternal principles, what is sin and how to judge it, relate to Sarasota County, Bridget and Kristen Ziegler. With no power, school board members Rose and Edwards want to remove Bridget Ziegler. Jack Brill, president of the REC, and Karen Rose represent the Remove Bridget Rhinos. Tom Edwards represents the Remove Bridget Wokes. What I'm saying is that such a meeting as this should have never happened. The only way that you remove someone from the school board is by vote during an election, and that's the law here in Sarasota County. The Rhinos and Wokes want you, the public, to go along with their unrighteous judgment. That's what's happening here tonight. Why? Their goal is to break Bridget's will so that she will resign. Where is the wrongdoing? It was an article of yellow journalism in a gossip paper. And soon you will finally get the truth, as the previous speaker just pointed out. Since the 2020 election, the Wokes and Rhinos have been redefining right and wrong so they can control the public narrative. The Wokes tell you to bow down. The Rhinos remove Congressman Santos from office without being found guilty of a crime. What sin has Bridget committed? The sin of not keeping the Wokes and the Rhinos happy. She kept her covenant pledge to the voters of Sarasota County. She voted against gender dysphoria, critical race theory, social emotional learning, diversity, equity, and inclusion. She voted for a deserving superintendent and phonics training for all students and teachers. Who has committed a political sin? The Wokes and the Rhinos. What is their sin? The sin of violating the covenant with the voters. Have they repented for it? No. They don't care about you. The voters spoke clear and loud. No CRT, no SEL, no gender dysphoria, no DEI in our schools. Elections matter. Here's what's really going on. Brill answers to the top dogs statewide and nationally. The Republican clubs here in Sarasota County have not been allowed to discuss the 2020 election for 3 years. The Wokes lost in the last election. They want to control and own you. The Wokes and the Rhinos want to take your logic and reasoning. They appeal to your lowest nature. That's what's going on here tonight. We voted for the highest and best good for every child here in this school district.
Gary Dickinson. Connie Bruni, please. Welcome to the podium. Followed by William Dubrow and with Ally Young on deck.
I'm gimping. My name's Connie Bruni, and I am a joyful warrior. My words are my own. They are not on behalf of any organization. Ms. Brazzini brought up the word that I wanted to talk about, Schadenfreude. It's a compound German word for the sadistic pleasure that certain folks derive from the misfortune of others. Extreme forms, as exhibited here today, emanate from persons in an attempt to dehumanize their target. Really concerns me. In the Holy Bible, which has been quoted many times tonight, and the same principle, John 8:7, during an attempt to discredit Jesus, the Pharisees brought a woman charged with adultery before them. They reminded Jesus that under Mosaic law, the penalty was stoning to death. All the folks were there gathered with stones in their hands, ready to stone this woman. Jesus instead said, and convicted all of them, as I convict us tonight, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." They disbanded. They realized that they were not spotless. A similar principle applies here tonight. Who among us is spotless? Not me. I don't believe any of us are. In fact, Mrs. Rose was asked in this chamber regarding where she lived. That's a distraction. I think that's something we need to look at. James 2:10 tells us, "For whoever keeps the law and yet stumbles as just one point is guilty of breaking it all." Would you want your foibles splattered on the TV or the newspaper? The resolution that was here tonight is hurtful and divisive. It's not the subject of the district's important business that's on the agenda. And I looked at the agenda, all of it, all 847 pages, I want you to know. 20 revised policies and $136 million in spending. $132 million of that is in change orders alone. It was shocking, but none of that is getting any attention because of this other noise that was wrought by our own board. It didn't have to be this way, and I'm disappointed. The mission of any organization, including this one, is bigger than any individual or individuals. We're engaged in a battle every day. You all? I am.
Thank you, Mrs. Bruni. William DeBrow, please. Followed by Ally Young with Esther Rockwell on deck.
My name is William Dobrow. I'm a Sarasota County resident and taxpayer. And I feel like I've been on the set of The View for the last 3 hours, MSNBC. The vitriol's been just about unbearable, and I commend you for having to sit through this. The word hate has been used. I don't see hate. I got a picture of the after party celebration when ZEM won. I don't see any hate here. Not from Miss Marinelli, not from Ms. Ziegler, not from Mr. Enos. I haven't seen any hate in any of the policies put forth by Ms. Ziegler. And where I have seen it is in the mainstream media. Nothing new there. I've seen allegations. I've seen those change drastically from last week to this week. Are the facts there? I'd bet the mortgage they're not. Facts are going to be coming out after an investigation is made. And then and only then should we be here talking about anybody stepping down. The fact is, we elected these folks up here, and we will fire them if we choose in November, and we'll continue to do so every 2 years. And until then, nobody's got any right to fire anybody on this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeBro. Ally Young, followed by Esther Rockwell with Garen Hoover on deck, please.
I'm Ally Young. I don't feel safe in this meeting. I'm afraid of the hate in here. Bridget, you have been abused here like a one-woman social epidemic. There's a lot of judgment and hypocrisy here tonight. Politics are dirty and corrupt. Don't be swayed by false rhetoric that you hear. Bridget, stay and get a focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's the job of this board. Focus on your family. Focus on the love that needs to be happening. Let's heal. Stay on the board.
Esther Rockwell, please, followed by Garen Hoover with Mary Holmes on deck.
Hi, my name is Esther Rockwell, and I've been a resident of Sarasota for 38 years. There's been so much talk about making Bridget Ziegler resign. Why? She did not commit a crime. The point is that this article that was in the Sarasota Herald Tribune, but one thing stands out. Why did the Sarasota Herald Tribune use a consman to report charges against the Zieglers? Why? Is it because she goes against their ideas? She has done a lot to help this community. But unfortunately today, evil is considered good, and good is considered evil. When I went to school, we didn't have LGBT children there in the schools. We had to take the Pledge of Allegiance. We had to say a prayer. And if anybody went home with a bad report from their teacher, they got in trouble at home. And what was the biggest problems that we had in the schools when I was going to school? The biggest problem was chewing gum, running in the halls, and playing hooky. What do we have today? We have children committing suicide, children attacking teachers, children taking a gun to school and killing other children. We didn't have any of that. We never had anything like that at all. Children were safe when they went to school. It seems, and then what are they talking against about the books being banned? Through euphemism, they try to change a word into something that's bad into something good. I have been fighting pornography for over 50 years. And the police have told us that one way to seduce a child is to show them pornographic books. So how is that going to make a child better? It's not going to make them better. They might get interested in seeing what they do. When a child becomes addicted or a man becomes addicted, he goes out to commit a crime. We talk about the children are so important. How many times have the children got into trouble?
Thank you, Mrs. Rockwell. Garen Hoover, welcome to the podium, please. Followed by Mary Holmes with Victor Rowe on deck.
Good evening, Board. Garen Hoover. COVID wreaked havoc on the world, and there is one benefit that came out of it, and that's because more parents got involved in their children's education. And I want to thank Moms for Liberty for doing that. And Florida House Bill 1557, the so-called Don't Say Gay bill, is a misnomer. And I think what we're seeing tonight is a reflection of that. By calling it that incorrectly, people are now conflating two issues. And House Bill 1557 was merely about what we teach K through third graders. Third graders should not be hearing about sexual orientation or gender identity. That's irrational. Nobody, I think, in my opinion, who is rational would conclude that. And then it talked about age appropriateness for everything else. So I think it's ironic that incorrectly calling it, creating a straw man argument, and then now using that to go in a different direction. It's wrong. Regarding the real women aren't men, if words have any meaning, that is a true statement. Think of the opposite. If real women are men, how ridiculous does that sound? So we have in our society a definition problem. People can't even define what a woman is anymore. It's irrational. So what I ask is that people think about what they're saying, and I think if people just think about what they're saying is irrational and not logical. And finally, I do want to say that recent legislation, and this is on a different topic, financial literacy is now required of ninth graders. I hope the legislators do even more than that, because we need to teach kids more about financial literacy. We're cranking out kids that don't know the basics of how to spend money. That's wrong. That should be first and foremost. Finally, also, I think we should get kids more into our trades, because certifications in trades will not burden them with college debt, and it's a great way to earn a living in life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hoover. Mary Holmes, welcome to the podium, please. Followed by Victor Rowe.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Maniglia, can you turn the air down? It's a little bit warm up here. Thank you.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Connor. My daughter Jenna is 36 weeks pregnant today and rushed to be at this meeting. She arrived at 6:02 and was not permitted to get a card to speak. I sent her home to rest. So please consider my comments as essentially a love letter from us both. My name is Mary Holmes, and I'm a 35-year veteran ESE teacher. Like many in the gallery, this evening I would much rather be home with my family. I've been here 4.5 hours. Recent circumstances, however, dictate that tonight, concerned citizens show up and speak out. Bridget, you made this everyone's affair when you, as an elected official, demonized, humiliated, judged, and insulted the students and professionals of this community who are LGBTQ. When they were brave enough to come and speak up for themselves at board meetings, when you posed in that inappropriate t-shirt, "Real women aren't men," when you presented yourself as the epitome of the wholesome Christian conservative family while living a double life of marital infidelity and sexual deviance. There are so many groups to whom you owe an apology. But wait, you and your husband have espoused your opposition to apologizing at your cult convention in Philadelphia. It makes one weak, correct? In the past few weeks, I've been wondering if that includes not apologizing to your own children. The little girls who now have it out in the clouds forever, that at the very least, both their parents chose to break their marriage vows, and two, They have chosen to be involved in sexual behaviors that many would view as deviant. It's not much fun to have your private lives discussed and be the topic of speculation when you are the one being discussed, is it? You brought this upon yourself when you allowed, at nearly every meeting, Church Lady to verbally crucify Tom Edwards as a pedophile and groomer without ever issuing so much as a warning. None of us could give a hoot about how many people with whom we've had sex at one time. Your apparent bisexuality, that's your business, not ours. Only you could manage to turn "don't say gay" into "don't say they." Our school community has always deserved better than you. We deserve to get back to the focus being on education, strategies for improving test scores, reaching our neediest populations, and ensuring a safe and challenging learning environment for all of our students. Continued attention to the sanctimonious actions of you and your husband are a daily distraction. You've lost all credibility. Every one of your colleagues called for your resignation. For the sake of our community, you must resign from the board immediately. In what I hope will be my final farewell to you, all I can say is bye-bye.
Victor Rowe, welcome to the podium, please.
Good evening. I think I'm the last speaker, perhaps.
That is correct, Mr. Rowe.
Okay. So, first of all, we need the disclosure. My words here tonight are only my words, my personal opinion. It has nothing to do with any organization I'm involved with in any way. Okay. Step one. Step two. What we have here is a well thought out, well executed, and well timed, well planned political hit job. Amen. That's what we're looking at. So who planned it? Well, apparently it was planned by a 68-time convicted felon who has done this in this county 5 times before. And one of his victims was a lady who was a Sarasota city commissioner, a very liberal to the left person. So apparently somebody has hired this political hitman to do this hit. It's obvious that this whole thing is orchestrated. And it's interesting that, it's interesting that apparently what I witnessed here tonight was the advice being followed of Herbert Marcuse, a late 60s, early 70s Marxist theorist. And among his principles were liberating tolerance and critical theory, which morphed into diversity, equity, and inclusion. So what is critical theory? What is, it's that his theory was that you treat the left one way and you treat the right totally differently. So when I was looking through the Florida statutes, I didn't see the crime of hypocrisy. But apparently, Bridget has been accused of 2 things. A homosexual relationship and hypocrisy. The big word I heard all night was hypocrisy. Well, if Bridget is guilty of hypocrisy in the 3rd degree, this whole board and most of this room is guilty of hypocrisy in the 1st degree. You treat her totally differently than you treat Mr. Edwards. What's with that, right? You are following the dictates of Herbert Marcuse, right? This is pseudo-Marxism. Notice I didn't say neo-Marxism.
Thank you,
I didn't say
Mr. Rowe.
Marxism.
I appreciate everyone's patience tonight, and that completes public comment. We are going to move on to agenda item number 3, additions and corrections, to the agenda. Superintendent Connor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There were some revisions to the agenda after publication. Item 1, discussion and resolution was added. Minutes were added to item 4, and an addendum was added to item 5, the instructional personnel report.
Thank you, Superintendent Connor. I apologize, Mr. Edwards. Anyone that would like to make a comment, respond to the public comment, Mr. Edwards, please do so.
Thank you. I could have so very much to say. I sat in a similar seat that Mrs. Ziegler sat in tonight, only it was before the Zem board arrived. And I sat there for hours. And so I know the pain that Mrs. Ziegler endured. But I want to be very clear that I'm going to pick up where I left off at 2 weeks ago. We have to put all this behind us. That's where I left off 2 weeks ago. And I said the distractions have to be gone. We have to forgive and forget. And we have to be student-centric. And not 2 weeks later, we're back. Not 2 weeks, we're back. So I want to be very clear. Very clear. I am not judging Mrs. Ziegler, her husband, or anything about the Zieglers, and I could. What I'm going to do, again, is be student-centric myself in every one of my actions, and I'm going to ask you all to do the same, because it doesn't appear that Mrs. Ziegler is going to resign. So from my seat, like everything else from the termination of a very good superintendent forward, I've had to work around, console teachers, console students, and continue to do the work that I plan on doing. So I'm asking all of you to do the same.
Any other response to public comment? Seeing none. Thank you, Superintendent Connor, for citing the revisions and corrections to the agenda. Looking at approval of the consent agenda, agenda item number 4, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? There is a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as amended. Please vote. Still waiting for. And the consent agenda is approved unanimously as amended. Agenda item number 5. Does anyone have a comment regarding the consent agenda? Seeing none, moving on to new business. Do I have a motion? Agenda item number 6.
6. I believe are we under new business, Madam Chair?
Yes, we are in new business.
I have it as number 58.
Item number 58. Got it. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, I move for approval to request to advertise the revised following school board policies for future adoption: 3.40 campus disorders, 3.401 trespass policy, 5.80 athletics, 4.40 extracurricular program, 5.62 administration of medication during school hours, 5.61 student illness, 4.431 field trip medication training for teachers and staff, 4.43 field trips, 5.56 student health services, 5.20 student attendance zones and choice options, 5.201 student out-of-zone transfer/choice, 5.23 controlled open enrollment, 4.65 virtual instruction, 4.70 home education, 5.305 threat management teams, 3.14 suicide prevention, 5.31 student detention search and seizure, 6.29 report of misconduct, 4.20 instructional material selection and objection to use, 4.22 library media career material selection and objection to use.
Thank you. I have a motion for item number 58. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comment? Seeing none, please vote. Item number 58, that the request to advertise board policies be approved as presented is unanimously approved. Item number 59, do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, approval changes to the labor contract between the school board and IUPA. The bargaining teams from the school district and IUPA have bargained in good faith to reach an agreement on changes to contract for all school resource officers. These changes reflect the efforts of both parties to provide a first-class work environment for all employees and provide a safe and secure environment for everyone on campus.
Item number 59, there is a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Just to clarify, is that a motion to approve the changes to the labor contract as proposed?
Yes, that's
okay.
Correct.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any comment? Item number 59.
May I?
Please.
I'd just like to say, I know our school police department does an excellent job. To Chief Lorenz and his staff, I know that we continue to strive every single day, reference to the safety and security of our staff. I know that the board is 100% committed. We had 2 actual briefings today on safety and security. I think everybody can see that, if kids aren't safe, they can't learn. If teachers aren't safe, they can't teach. And I just commend that, as well as the bargaining unit to be able to provide them with the benefit that they deserve.
Thank you, Mr. Enos. Seeing no further comment, please vote. Item number 59, that the board approve the proposed changes to the labor contract between the school district and IUPA. Passes unanimously. Item number 60, do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, approval and/or ratification of the construction services change orders.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any comment? Superintendent Connor, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make sure the public is aware that we did put this on new business. This is in relation to Welland Park High School, which is a major construction project that we'll be undergoing in the next couple of years. This change order actually puts $133 million into the final GMP to allow construction to begin. So this is not asking for additional funding. It is a part of the original project, but it's always good for the public to understand that.
Seeing no further comment, please vote. Item number 60, that the construction services change orders be approved and/or ratified as presented, passes unanimously. Item number 61, do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, approval of the joint project agreement between Sarasota County Schools and Sarasota County Government.
There's a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any comment? Mr. Enos, please.
Yes, this is something that is desperately needed, especially at the time we are for first responders. This is for continued funding of the Fire Academy, which will be something that will obviously affect all of us. If you look at the community down in Northport, North County, we have, with the increased population, we need to have a state-of-the-art fire services academy, and then this will provide it. And this is a partnership with Sarasota County and the school board, which will ultimately affect, as we talk about trades, being a police officer, being a fireman, technically is a trade. It's a professional position, and this, again, allows us to give outlets for our students in our county to be able to provide service to our citizens, which I think is an excellent idea.
Thank you, Mr. Enos. Mr. Edwards?
Thank you. Can anyone tell me if any other counties or governments, I believe they were asked to contribute. We were asked to go from 5 million to 10 million. I asked the question, and I think before we agree to vote on it, I'd be curious to know if anyone other than us contributed.
Madam Chair, through the chair, it is my understanding that we are the only one contributing additionally to the project that I'm aware of. In terms of other districts, school districts, no, just Sarasota County School District. Any other agencies, I'm not 100%. I can confirm that for you, but I don't think so.
I'm gonna support this because I think it's an important endeavor for the community overall. I pointed out in the workshop when it was discussed that I appreciate how the cost of construction can get away from you. We're building schools. I see what we're dealing with. This was a county project initially that we were invited to join in on and give $5 million. And the rationale behind the additional $5 million was because the cost escalated. At least that's my understanding during the workshop. I'm not sure that's an overall rationale that I could get 100% behind. So, like I said, I'm going to support it, but I think it's important that the relationship between the county government and the school district remain intact. But I wanted the public to know that I thought it was an extra big ask coming out of a budget that's focused on students.
Seeing no further comment, please vote. Item number 61, that the joint project agreement with Sarasota County Government be approved as presented, passes unanimously. Item number 62, do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, approval of the capital budget amendment to increase the contribution to a new fire science academy with an interlocal agreement from Sarasota County Government.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, is there any comment? Seeing no comment, please vote. And the motion passes unanimously. That concludes new business. And moving on to board member comments. Mr. Edwards?
Thank you. Before I forget, it's the last board meeting before the holidays. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I also want to piggyback on a bit of the conversation that we had about retaining RA and keeping that as a focus. So I wanted to wrap up today with, and I don't want anyone to take offense if I left them out because it's not my intention, but I want to say an extra thank you to Dr. Johnson, Dr. Brandon Johnson. We had significant improvement in 3 of our elementary schools, and to think that he took the mission from a previous administration, rode the mission through the interim time period, and delivered us at Gulfgate, we went, and Lamarck, we went from a C to an A. And at Wilkinson, we went from a C to a B. And I don't know if you all remember, but back in the year before, Wilkinson went from an F to a C. So, Dr. Johnson, well done.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Mrs. Ziegler.
Nope, I'm good.
Mr. Enos.
Yes, also, I'm looking forward to happy holidays to everybody, and again, to all our first responders and our military veterans that on Christmas Day will be working, as well as through Hanukkah and all the rest of the holidays that we have coming forward. I'm looking forward to, when we get back in January, to hearing from Mr. Connor in reference to all the accomplishments he's had in the first 100 days, as well as to the grades, as well as to a lot of the other things that have been that have started to go really, really well, to continue with Sarasota County to become to lead. As I said, we should always lead and never follow. We have a great staff here, and through their commitment, I tip my hat to them. And you know, what is an awesome achievement to have increased to all those A's from what we had, and to show continued growth just in the short time period. I think that is absolutely outstanding. So wish everybody the safest of the holidays, and we'll see you in 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Enos. Ms. Marinelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also would like to thank all the staff and to wish everybody happy holidays. And with that being said, I would like to continue our discussion at our next workshop, if that's possible, of how and when our school board meetings are conducted. I know that Superintendent Connor had been doing some research on our policies and procedures, so I would like to discuss that, continue it, and also under safety for everybody. And also, I'd like to ask our attorney to please do some research on what is acceptable conversations at the podium in the board chamber, as far as a political venue of people stating who they're going to vote for, and also using it as announcing their candidacy. I believe there are some legislation that addresses that, so I would like our attorney to research that, and then we can discuss that too. Because I think that, I know that I'm committed. I'll stay here till midnight. My focus is on student achievement. And many, many people said in this chamber that they wanted politics out of it, and many of the people that say that bring it right in. So I would like to have the research done of what we can do and not do. Thank you.
I'd like to congratulate our teachers, our staff, our parents, and our students on maintaining an A grade. We've also maintained the 5th place standing in the state of Florida with academic achievement. There is work to be done with 3rd grade reading, and that has not had any growth in several years, and I'm extraordinarily confident that Superintendent Connor has strengthened our systems, our processes, our procedures. We have moved to being data-driven. I have the utmost confidence in the reorganization of staff at the district office, the focus on instruction and learning. It's disappointing to me that the boardroom is landed where it's landed with the distractions just aren't coming from a board member or board members. The distractions come as well from those coming into the boardroom, that I have to concur that when you say you want politics out and that you want to focus in on instruction and learning, I encourage all of us to do just that. The holidays are coming up, well-deserved for our teachers, staff, families, and community. I wish every one of you well. Have a safe and restful holiday, and look forward to seeing you in January. Our next meeting is scheduled for, the next work session is scheduled for Tuesday, January 16th. Followed by a 6:00 p.m. board meeting. Thank you very much to all. This meeting is adjourned.